guys? Bobby Roast Beef here. Another episode of Jigs and Friggin' Bigs. And man, we got a good one this week. This is the second time in that number of weeks where we have a guest in the beef seat where they're from the same state. They're from Oklahoma. We got Kat Diep in the house, and we're gonna geek out on some BFS fishing right there. Kat is an angler that is all about the little details, and you pick up exactly what I'm putting down when you listen to this segment. We had a great time, and I can't wait to get out to Oklahoma and fish with both her and Jose. That's game on. I'm just saying. On top of that, your boy's been hard at work for Jigs and Bigs, for the podcast, for the website. We've got updates about all that stuff. Joe has a tale for us, and I'm excited to know what happened. He said it does not involve fishing at all this week. I'm curious what happened. The weather has sucked here, folks, but your boy did manage to get out there and get on the water. We're going to talk about that. New PB was actually broken this week, too. Kind of a wild one. And we'll see you guys in about 2 shakes of a dog's tail. Don't go too far. More Jigs and Bigs coming up right after this. Come on.
I actually say 2 shakes of a fucking dog's tail?
You sure did. You sure did.
What the fuck is wrong with me?
I don't know. You sound like a fucking grandfather, dude.
I do. Really? Yeah, I do. God, I'm getting old.
Yeah, you did.
Fuck.
Yeah, you did. And he's been dead for like 20 years.
That's brutal. I'd say it's the jigglers, but I haven't yet enjoyed any today. Folks, welcome to Jigs and Bigs. We got jig heads on jig heads on jig heads. This is a magical week, to be honest, around here at Jigs and Bigs HQ. It's a magical week because we have kicked off yet another fold in that world of multi-species competitive angling. And it's open week. The May Open is upon us, and we had a little bit lighter of a turnout as far as people entering. And I made it so that once this kicks off that week, you can't register. So now, if you're like, oh, I meant to register, well, now you got to wait till October. October 1 will be posted later this summer once the week gets selected and everything. But the next Open will be in October. The reason why you want to be in these is because that makes you eligible to enter the championship. The Opens are a little bit higher stakes than the monthlies. The monthlies are a $30 buy-in. The Opens are $50. So a little bit higher stakes. You want to give away a little bit more prize money. Of course, it would help if we had
more than 3 competitors.
Because the way it looks right now, it looks like first place is going to walk away with some cash. Second place is going to get a free ride for the next one. And then me, because I'm going to be third, I'm going to get fucked. So you're welcome, everybody. Here we are. I say that because what we have going on today, the kickoff, I woke up to like a dozen or more submissions at 6 a.m. When I woke up, there were already a dozen fish submitted. And
should already known. I should already have known.
Well, part of it is this man right here, John Higgins. He says, I'm slowing down now for Bobby, sitting on my tailgate carp fishing as he's watching the show. This man is unstoppable. But I was like, and I knew he was going out, like starting, he was like, yeah, I'm watching the clock at 12:01, 1 second past the first cast. And he was putting in fish. I knew he was out catfishing, so I was expecting some of that. He got in quite a few. And he's been on and off, like adding to that today. So it was kind of wild. But then Tim Behan, like first thing this morning, had a brook trout. I think he entered a brook trout. And first thing this morning, I was like, you've got to be shitting me. Like, I haven't even been able to get out yet. And I'm just going to dive into my fishy week. The rest of it, I'll go over what went down today. So I had, my plan was to go and hit, I have a short list of spots that I'm going to hit this week. And all of them produce multiple species that I'll need. And I had to go with today because I had to bring the kid to school, then do the pickup and everything. I had to be local, so I went to Congamon Jr. And I checked off all the boxes today at Congamon Jr. that they had to check, including idiocy at the boat launch. I
wouldn't have expected anything less.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So I'm getting set up, and I get all my gear together, and I went and I'm documenting the whole thing. My next video on YouTube is going to be this week in total. So it's going to be a bunch of different trips, like highlights and things like that, because I'm going to only be going out for a few hours at a clip for the most part, just because of my availability. If I was smart, I would have done one of these in like July. It sucks to fish in July, especially for like multi-species. It can be kind of a grind to find like those trout. But at the same time, like it allows me to take the entire day and be like, you guys watch the dogs, I'm out. You know?
Yep.
And it's nice. So it was a bit of a challenge today. So I get to the water, and there's this young kid setting up his kayak. And I'll tell you, if there's one thing that just grinds my gears, it's when a kayak angler shows up car topping, and I get that you have to do that.
Sure.
But they drag the boat down and then bring every little piece to the launch. You know what I'm saying? Every little piece, and then they rig it and everything else. Well, not only that, but there was another. Now this kid would have been fine. There was another guy there who launched a real tiny boat, and this boat, like, I mean, this must have been maybe like a 10-foot aluminum boat. Like, it was super, super small. He launched it, and then he tied off. There's like a sign there with like, you know, the rules for the lake and everything. And so he's tied off to it. And he takes the cover off of his outboard and starts doing like mechanical work on it. Like right there, like he was ready to fish. Yeah, I don't know if like he had to like prime the clutch, or I don't know if he had to like tweak the choke just right or something to get it to start. So all this is going on, and as I go, like I stopped. I see when I pull into a parking spot, like I'm a regular human being. I pull into a parking spot and I stage there, whether it's my boat or my kayak. I pull into a parking spot and I stage right there, and then I'll drive around because I generally launch with the ramp with my boat, obviously, but with my kayak too. And I'll handle launching. I'll pull, up. I'll beach what I've got, and then I'll go park my truck, and I'm good. I try to be as quick in and out as fast as possible. Yay. So I try to accomplish this every single time I can. Well, I get over there and I'm like, okay, so I'm parked like the nose of my truck is right alongside, like the parallel to the ramp, you know, or not parallel, perpendicular to the ramp. So then they're still, and this guy's talking, giving them like tips, like, oh, you should go here. It's great. Blah, blah, blah. I caught a such and such and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna position the trailer so I'm in position, so they know I'm coming down the ramp. And then I stop and I go over. I go, you guys cool if I just try and send it down here or what? What's going on? And they're like, oh yeah, go ahead. I ended up having to launch like half on the ramp because I didn't want to hit this poor kid's kayak. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. So I end up, the kid, he could tell I was pissed after the dude in the boat took off, and like he went like 40 feet away and then threw an anchor and fished right there.
All that.
I don't know.
All that.
I don't know. So he says to me as I'm parking my truck, he's like, hey man, he goes, I apologize, dude. He's like, I'm just really bad at telling like older folks when they got to like wrap it up. And I'm like, that's a good point. I get that. Because that's kind of shitty, like, you know, throwing. I get that. You don't want to be that guy. I get that. That's fine. I did bump into
that dude could have like stormed the beaches of Normandy, and
you never know.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's the thing. And you're like, hey, how about you just shut the fuck up and let's go fish?
Hey, fuck face.
Hey, dickhole.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So he goes and, I take off and I bumped into him later, and I was like, he actually asked me as I was just pulling away from the ramp. He's like, what kind of fish do they have in here? I was like, oh, but he goes, do you fish here often? I was like, too often. It's like, he goes, what can you find in here? And I was like, a lot of small, like not exciting to catch chain pickerel. And I was like, and a bunch of dink bass. And I'm like, if they're on, like if they're feeding, buddy, you're going to be catching a bunch of them, but they're just not going to be impressive. You know, like a lot of numbers, a lot of small fish. Right. Dude, they were on today. They were fucking on today. So I went back to I had been going there to try to figure out how to fish this area more effectively to get the most out of for exactly this day.
Sure.
So I could get the most out of the diversity and know where fish were set up before I show up, so that I could fish it as effectively as I possibly could. So again, throwing primarily finesse, downside stuff, going where those species are.
Yep.
I started throwing around a finesse swim bait on that Pig Jigs ultralight BFS rod, and man, I gotta tell you, I caught a bunch of fish this week with that rod, and it's nothing like super impressive. I did break a PB this week. I'll get to that, and but I lit up on a bunch of actually first cast out chain pickerel. I was like, okay, cool. And I'm like, let's just measure him. And I was like, shit, I don't have my identifier in my hand yet. I'm like, I don't have water in the live well. I was like, I just released him. I was like,
okay,
you're 1 point. I was like, but I got a feeling, like just the way he bit, I felt like we were going to be good. I probably caught 7 crappie right after that, a bunch of them, and at that point I had my shit together. I had my life in order, and entered that, so that was a point. Then I hooked up on my first dink largemouth, then another dink largemouth that was a slight upgrade, like a 3/4 inch upgrade. So I was like, okay, that's cool. I did eventually get like an 11 I think it was a 12 1/4 was the chain pickerel that I ultimately entered in, and then I didn't really upgrade at all from that in any kind of size, but I caught so many more crappie. Like they were inhaling this 3-inch plastic, and all I was doing was just letting it hit the bottom and then just slow rolling it with a pop every once in a while, and it would just crush it. I did find some deeper weeds, and I decided to get cute, and I threw a little Rig X out toward that way with a couple of those robo worm Neds that I picked up. Remember, I was like, I got some last robo worms, like the ones that were real,
Yep.
And so I was throwing those. I caught 1 crappie on those. I thought maybe I was going to get into something a little bit better quality. Not so much. It just wasn't happening. So I fished my ass off all day, and then I went back and I picked up the kid and did all that. So things are good. I can't complain. Everybody's happy. I'm happy. That's good. As far as the rest of my week goes, man, that rain sucked balls, didn't it?
Dude, it was awful. Like it's so, like awful. There's so many like funny TikToks about people being like, when the sun finally comes out in New England on a weekend. And of course I had sports, like plans with the kids and stuff. So I'm like, motherfucker.
I know, dude.
And I was gonna go out in the morning, but I'll talk about why I didn't. But
so it rained basically from like, I think last Monday until like Thursday. Like, and Thursday it was heavy. Like we got hit hard.
Yeah. It's like been raining since I got home from Georgia, dude.
It was shitty. Like, I mean, and it's not that I'm not going to go and send it necessarily in the rain, but like I used that as an opportunity to get some shit done. And I did get quite a bit of shit done actually last week. So I had put some time in, I released a YouTube video about this, kind of like just, I'm going to go and fish and we'll talk about this. I think, was it Friday that I did that? It might've been Friday. No, Friday upload. I must have been earlier in the week. Like we had a break. It must have been Thursday, I think. We had a break, and I went out and I just fished and kind of talked about the site. So I've been, I've over like if there's a monkey on Bobby Roast Beef back, it is the Jigs and Bigs website. And what I did was I was just like, initially when I put the website together, I was just like, yeah, it'll be a place where I can send people. They'll get information about the the podcast, and they'll be able to listen to it there and all that stuff. And like, well, yeah, you can still do pretty much all that stuff. The only thing that we got away with was like the bulk. So what I did was I've been sending everybody to the Linktree forever. And I was like, I just need like a place where I can send people to. So what I did was I just put a button on jigsandbigs.com as a landing page. Just click here, it goes right to the Linktree. And the nice thing about it is that right up at the top, you get a little blurb about what the show's all about. You know, you have links for Apple Podcasts, which is the biggest podcast platform that we have. We also have the second biggest is Spotify. Links for the YouTube channel. We've got links for Instagram, Facebook, links for Patreon. Link right there for emailing if you want to email us. And then what I didn't realize that they had on here was the ability to have a call for a phone number. And now we have the hotline right on the screen. So if you go to jigsandbigs.com and you get to this main page right here, the little phone icon, if you hit that, well, fuck it, I'm going to call right now.
Hi, thanks for calling Jigs and Bigs. We aren't available right now, but you...
And you can just leave us a message, or you can even text that number if you want, which is pretty cool. You know, so Jigs and Bigs hotline, you know, it's there where I want to get more use, and it's proof positive that it is working, because we have 2 brand new live well questions that came in this week, both of them on the freaking hotline. So congrats to you guys for doing all that.
That's great.
I do want to mention that Linktree also allows a couple other things. Like I said, the Bobby Roast Beef is like kind of scrambling to kind of like figure out how to like make some funds here. And one of the things that it allows is there's like a whole shop tab. Actually, we'll get to the shop tab in a moment. I did add on here that there's the option to do a frequently asked questions list. And
I'm on it right now. I was just looking at that.
Yeah, like these are some of the questions that we get the most often. If there's something you think I should put on there, feel free to shoot me a message, or if you have a question that you'd like to submit, you know, as one of the frequently asked questions, like go ahead. I'm glad to do that. But these are the ones that are the big ones that people ask. I feel like I'm answering them all the time. So that's why I put them in a spot. I'm going to keep and maintain all of the links for all of the tournaments right here as well. So there's also a link right there for Jigs and Bigs merch, so you can go ahead and tap that. More info on the merch coming in just a bit. We've got all 3 of our tournaments. We've got there's if you want to support the show, we're hooked up with Buy Me a Coffee, and then our partners: Omnia, Dark Horse Tackle, A-Bay Lure Lab, Reaction Tackle. I mean, even Frost Buddy, we've got an affiliate link for. I don't know if anybody's bought a Frost Buddy through us, but it is what it is. And then on this other tab, there's a shop page. So what I like about this is I have kind of divided this into a couple of different things, and once it's a little slow to update, but basically it's like my fishing gear. The stuff that I put in there, like there's affiliate links for, so you can go and look at the products that I've been able to list. There's production stuff that I use. A lot of people ask questions about podcasting, so you can go ahead and some of those products that are in there, you can go ahead and check that out. Then the other one's accessories, and that's everything from like stuff that I use when I'm fishing or I'm camping, stuff that I use for like one of the stupid things that everybody asks me about is how I store my rods in the 4Runner.
Yep.
And I have those I guess like wardrobe rods like that are in there. That's what they're for.
Yeah.
Hanging up clothes. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. We'll go ahead. We'll throw this stuff in here. It is a little late to update, but it's pretty badass. So yeah, I mean, go ahead and check it out. jigsandbigs.com. There's all that new stuff. Now, getting to the merch. So I do want to do more with merch and create some fun stuff, for some folks. And I came up with a design. I put this animated Bobby Roast Beef figure, and I came up with this design and kind of tweaked it a little bit. And so there's going to be an official Bobby Roast Beef Jigs and Bigs t-shirt that you can pick up with a character to my likeness, holding a giant, just doing his thing. On the back of the shirt, I want to make it so that you have 2 options. One will say "Get fucked, bud." The other one will be blank. If you want to not offend, so you have a choice. And I am working on an American vet fishing. I am. It's just the I don't know what it was with that picture, but it just did not want to process. Okay,
I'll send you a couple different ones.
Yeah, I'm in the process of working, but we're gonna have that one on there shortly. So new shirts will be coming. And like right now, I think I have the plain one. I don't have the Get Fucked Bud one. I'm gonna have to do a whole other ones, but that's pretty good. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of been a silly week. Now, I did get out on once this week, like I said, to talk about like the podcast and everything, and that's all that episode dropped on the YouTube channel earlier this week, and then it was. So this is what happened Saturday. It got a little fucked up. My wife I love my wife. I should. She's my wife. She has this tendency of like working on like the weirdest days, and like sometimes it'll be like a holiday. Like she'll sign up for a shift because they're paying like double time, you know. And she's like, I'm taking advantage of it. I was like, all right, you don't need to, but that's fine. So she'll go. She decided to work a double on Mother's Day.
No shit.
She worked a double on Mother's Day. You want to know how much the pay differential was?
What's that?
0. It's almost like she didn't want to see her fucking family. You know what I mean? So I was
if it
like,
walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, Bobby.
Right? So I said to her, I was like, look, I go, so what's going on for this weekend? Because I'm trying to, you know, again, like I know I have the concert Saturday night. We're going to get to that. Yep. And then I went to, but my plan was to fish that morning and then go out. She's like, well, I kind of want to go out to like Pie Bar for breakfast. And then, you know, maybe we'll just like go run to Trader Joe's and you know, get a few things and then whatever. I was like, okay, hey,
you live an exciting life, lady.
So I tell her, I go, all right, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, make my adjustments to the schedule and whatever. And now I'm like, so now this means I have to just stop by my mom's at some point on Sunday, but I'm sending it on Sunday. That's the plan. I'm going hard. Good. And so this is what happened. I was like, I get up that morning. First off, like I told her to wake me up like early so that we could go and do all this stuff. I wake up at the fucking nice early hour of like 8:15 and I'm like, what the fuck? And I look, her car is still there. So I'm like, okay, she must have gotten up, decided to let me sleep in, then fell asleep on the couch. And guess who was
exactly right what happened?
So she got up and I was like, hey, so what's going on are we going out to do all this? She's like, you know, I don't feel great this morning. I think I'm just going to hang out here. I was like, okay, cool.
I could have fished.
Yep.
But I'm like, it is what it is. Then my daughter comes downstairs. Ladies and gentlemen listening to Jigs and Bigs, if you are a father of daughters and are married, you know the kind of chaos that was about to unfold. My daughter came downstairs and said one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Oh, no.
Hey, I'm going to go do some studying at Dunkin' Donuts. Because the reason was I can't get anything done here in the house. Her older sister says the same thing. Like she likes to go to a cafe and study. And I'm like, all right, there's just, I know them. There's infinitely more distractions in a public place like that. If you go to a library or something, that's fine, you know? And I'm like, that is so stupid, Ace. What are you doing? And then, but like my wife gets like highly upset about this. And they start going back and forth.
Oh, boy.
I decided to play the peacemaker. And I was like, hey, you want me to run out and grab something for breakfast? And she's like, yeah, all right, cool. Okay. Yeah, why don't you do that? I said, excellent, cool. So I go and I take my kid with me and I'm like, hey, let's go. So we have this conversation and it was a good conversation. I think I handled the situation pretty well. I was like, you do understand why that's like a stupid idea. I'm like, you're talking about like, you know, oh, I get studying and then, you know, mom will say, oh, hey, take out the dog. So I got to stop and do that. It was like, just take out the dog before you study. Like that's all it is. Like it's just if you do that, you've got 5 to 6 hours. You really do. And I'm like, if it's one of those things like where you're the only like, because there's plenty of times where she's the only one here. I'm like, take the dogs out, put them in their crates, and go in your room and study, or anywhere else in the house that you want. I'm like, you know, And she's been killing it like the last almost 2 years. And she's like, I'm behind in history. Her history teacher is a little bit like doesn't really stick to the syllabus necessarily. Like there's all this stuff that just is out of order and like ridiculous. So, but like she's been killing, she's been doing like high honors for like the last 2 years. And I was like, I get it. You know, like you want to get your notes in order. That's fine. It's fine. I was like, but you don't have to go to Dunkin' Donuts to do it. I was like, if you want to go grab a coffee, that's fine. Go. But like hanging out in a restaurant space and studying is like, I mean, I guess if they're going to have a character flaw, I'd rather it be that one. You know, it's not like the serial killers or anything like that. So I go and I come back and everybody's having breakfast and everybody's, I think
I think I've saved the day.
I couldn't have been more wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong. So there's still a little bit of tension, between the two of them. And they go at it again. I kind of walk away. And then, of course, like, my wife can't leave it alone. And then she starts fucking explaining to me.
Like trying to justify.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, I get, okay. And I'm like, well, I just said this and I made I said something that was just a mistake.
Oh, no.
Hey, you don't have to yell at me about it.
How'd that go?
She yelled at me about it.
I figured she did.
I was almost like, I'm just going to grab the boat and fucking go. And this time I realized how late in the day it was. I was like, this is fucking stupid. I'm like, it's just bad. And I had to be back to record with Kat. So I'm like, I only have this amount of time. Like it's not like that. I was like, just suck it up. So I just put on some headphones and I just cleaned the kitchen is what I did. Angrily cleaned the kitchen. Yeah. And hey, it was fine. It was fine. I get up on, I leave for the concert, right? This was amazing. So I record with Kat and, like right afterwards I hit the road. Jimmy and I get there and this was at the House of Blues. You ever been to the House of Blues, Joe, in Boston? It's right on Lansdowne.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, but yes. Yep.
So there's a parking garage right next to the House of Blues, and we got in there for like $25. I was like, yeah, let's park as close as we can for sure. I'm like, I know it's going to be crazy getting back out, but like whatever, we'll be prepared for it. Dude, at the end of the night, when we went back into that garage, it went up to $60.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, I'm glad we got in here when we did.
Whoa.
So we got there and like the line went all the way down Lansdowne and around the corner. And I was like, you know what, man? Let's just go to the Bleacher Bar. Just get some fucking drinks and fucking hang out. So we do that. We go in and we have some food and a couple of drinks and we're just like playing a bunch of like questionable stuff on the touch tunes and everything. We get out, and at this point, the edibles had kicked, and brother, they kicked, and we're hanging like this line is taking forever to move, and I'm like, I feel like the people watching is going to be better right here than it will be if we go get at the tail end of the line and walk in with it. He's like, I agree. So we hang out there. We met a bunch of freaking characters. There was all kinds of crazy entertainment going on there. A lot of women all dressed up to the nines, like walking around, choking down like sausage and pepper sandwiches, man. Dressed to the nines. I was like, all right. I'm pretty sure there was a baseball game that day. So it was humming down there. It was
really
crazy.
Sick, right? I'm not a city guy by any means, but it's kind of fun to go and
It's a nice place to visit.
Occasion,
I wouldn't want to live there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's the way I like. I like when people are just like, "Oh, you go to a city, you're like a tourist." I'm like, "Yes, that's how I'm happy."
Exactly. 100%.
I'll enjoy all the amenities and everything that's there, but like I'm like I want to be able to escape where I can like actually fucking not have traffic like that. So we get into the show, and I had never been in the House of Blues before, so this is just wild. Like, Jimmy and I had seen Manson together at mainly in like arenas, like big shows. And for him to like still have the draw, because it was butt to nut in this freaking room. There were so many people here. And there was even like, you could tell like, what was crazy was I genuinely felt like I was going to feel like one of the oldest people there. It was
a bunch of elder emos, wasn't it?
It was way older than I was, and way older than I am.
Really?
Yeah, way older than I am.
Whoa,
like,
okay.
There was a number of people there who were like, you're definitely grandparents.
No shit.
100%. Yeah. In fact, there was this one woman, and I mean, I wanted to snap a picture, but it was like she put away the fishnets from like the early 90s Manson Family Values tour, the early days. And then she was just like, oh, Manson's back. And then got them out again. The same ones, except now this woman
looked like a ham.
Walking around like an old prosciutto just hanging in an Italian deli somewhere. I was like, what? It's just a mess, dude. Just a mess.
Those fishnets were of the 65-pound braided test type.
Yeah, they were. Yes. I was like, this is insane. But I'll tell you what, as far as the show went, absolutely unfreaking believable. So good. Like the band he's playing with, that, like you can tell he's sober now. He's been sober, I think, like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah,
and you can tell, like, he is way, way, way more focused, less like crazy, like a maniac on stage.
About, just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and he's way, way, way more dialed. It's pretty good, man. We had a real good time. We drove back. You know what? I really, and this is kind of podcast related. Jimmy was like, "So, dude, when are we going fishing again?" Which is awesome because in like our entire we've been friends now since college, so going on like 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, he's never said that. I'm like, that's awesome. Yes. So he's starting to get it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm like, it'll be pretty badass. So, yeah, I mean, I had a pretty good week. I can't complain. I was busy. I got a lot of things done that I needed to get done, and it was pretty awesome. But, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. What about
the Manson show was good, though?
Dude,
Manson
show
was
was so good. It was awesome.
Good.
We totally missed the opener. Neither one of us could give a shit. And he played for like an hour and 10 minutes, maybe.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We're just like, that's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, played some old school stuff, played some new. He closed on one of the ballads from what album is that? Mechanical Animals.
Okay.
And actually, when they played the Dope Show, he had this really fucking interesting way of describing like his sobriety. He was like,
I got to do it in a voice. I got to. He goes, I used to like he goes, I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me. And everybody cheers.
And then he goes,
in all actuality, I really do like the drugs.
And then he goes, it was at one point I turned myself into a little space monkey covered in cocaine, and I shot myself like a rocket into heaven. And they turned me down, and I fell hard. And he was like, but I'm still here. You know, it's like, holy shit. It was really, really good. I was like, and I'm like,
it's wild.
He's 56 now.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Nutso.
Oh.
Man, so my week.
Yeah.
My week was not fishy like yours. I wish it was. As it kind of being adult this week in the aspect of I was gone for 10 days in Georgia. Came home, had my sister's gender reveal party.
Yep.
That was about as, I'm not gonna say it, but it was interesting. It was interesting. They did the truck burnout to like do the gender, like the smoke. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
So we did that. That was cool. She's having a girl. Which I can't believe she's having a kid, period. I never thought I'd see the day, but
that's crazy, right? That's awesome, dude.
So yeah, dude, so I had that, and then it was like, you know, obviously like the back to work thing Monday, and doing a lot of catch up. So for those of you who don't know, I'm heading on the big boat on Friday and heading on a little bit of a cruise out to Bermuda with the fam. So, dude, it's like, well, you know how it is with kids, dude. You go anywhere, you never feel like you're ready. You feel like you're missing all kinds of shit.
Yep.
And, you know, typically when you go on vacation, you're like, oh, you know, if we forgot something, we'll just like go to the store and buy it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not really how it is on a cruise ship. So the anxiety, you know, so the anxiety's there a little bit more. So we've been kind of just preparing for that. I did Saturday, dude, and again, the weather's been absolute trash.
Yes,
so it's
it
like,
has.
oh man, it's like, I don't want to go out for a couple hours I can only really go out for a couple hours. So I want to go and get fucking soaked. So obviously I didn't go Saturday. Saturday was a wash, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go Sunday morning. I was like, babe, I'll go Sunday morning.
Yep.
Then we had, one of the boys had a flag football game. I was like, you bring him to that. And then we had, my aunt does an Easter egg hunt for the kids every year at her property. It's awesome. The kids love it. They look for, and just like the way it's been the last few weeks, this is the only week we could really do it. So we're like, yep. I was like, I promise I'll be at the Easter egg hunt. Promise. The night before, I was like, you know what? I hadn't plugged the boat in. I was like, I'm just going to go plug it in just in case, because, I'm running all 125 amp hour lithium. So I can get literally multiple days running everything. I get multiple days. And I had recharged it before the last day of the tournament down in Georgia. So I was like, I'll be fine. But I was like, you know what? I'll just double check.
Sure.
Dude, I look on the app first. I must have left something on because two of my batteries were completely dead. So the boat wouldn't power up. And when they're that dead, dude, it takes forever. Not forever. It's less time than normal. But it was like, this is at like 10 o'clock at night. I'm figuring this out. And
you're becoming close.
Yeah, they wouldn't have had enough time to charge. So it came to like, I got up at like 8:30 and I was like, all right, I'll check them. I was like, oh, I could go. They're at like 50%. That'd be fine. But then like Jeremiah was like, hey, you come to my game? I was like, ugh. And then knowing we had the Easter egg thing, I was like, well, today's a wash. I'm not going to go today.
Yeah.
And of course, like on our way to all the places we had to go, I like go out of my way to like go by the boat ramps and stuff like that. And I see boats. I'm like, motherfucker.
Fucked up.
Like the one down the street from me is in a no wake right now because of the flooding, because the water's super, super high. But so I didn't even get to go out this week, which is unfortunate. I'm going to try to get out Wednesday evening for like the Wednesday like night league. I'm gonna try to get out there for that. Yeah, that's a local one. And then Friday, dude, we're on the ship for a week and we don't get back to the following Friday. But I'll be fishing as soon as I get back. I told Meg, I was like, dude, we're gonna get off that ship, we're gonna get home, and I just spent a week with you guys, so I will be fishing the remainder of the week.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Fuck yeah.
And or the remainder of the weekend. So she understood that. She got that. She was good with that. And yeah. But other than that, man, oh my God, you know what happened to me today?
No, what?
Motherfucker, dude. So I'm driving, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those days. I've been having some days at work. So it was kind of one of those days where I was like I was raw dogging the drive, dude. Gotcha. No music. No, one of those. You know what I mean? You're just thinking. I'm just kind of have my head back driving. And I'm on a road clear pretty close to my house, 2-lane road, kind of a back road. And I'm driving by some cars, truck. Then I hear boop on my mirror. I was like, what the fuck was that? And I look back and there's another truck with wide ass mirrors and he like hits the brake. Dude, we went mirror to mirror.
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
Now, do you have the mirrors that have like the breakaway where they just like pop back?
But it was just like a little, like barely brushed
like
each other. Yeah, it wasn't like a full on like collision.
Gotcha.
But it was enough to like the little tiny plastic like blinker like cracked on my mirror. So I pull over and I just look at it because like, dude, I knew like the noise. I was like, it couldn't have been bad. I was like, oh fuck, it cracked. This dude like pulls a U like, and here's the thing, dude, like maybe I was a little close to yellow. Maybe he was like, it was both two huge trucks.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? So like he pulls around like a fucking asshole.
Oh, that's
like
comes, you're dealing with a real piece of shit at that
point. Comes up fast to me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to beat the living shit out of this dude. Like, I've had a bad day as it is. Like, I'm going to have to put this dude's head through his own fucking window.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
So dude, he gets out all like with a face. He goes, oh, it was a kid I went to high school with. And like, I was very, very friendly with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, dude. I was like, what the fuck happened? He's like, I don't know, man. He's like, I was like, did we hit mirror? I was like, he's like, yeah, we did. There was nothing with his. And mine was just cracked. And so we ended up like, I was like, dude, I don't care. I was like, I'll buy the piece of plastic. It's probably $10.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, because I was like, dude, I might have been kind of drifting a little close. You may. I was like, we're never gonna prove who. Who knows? We're never gonna know. It's like, yeah, you're right. So then we ended up on the side of the back road, like shooting the shit for like 10 minutes. But yeah, so that happened. That was literally just today on my way home. I was like so pissed. Yeah, other than that, dude, hopefully, again, I will be absent from next week's show, unfortunately, because I will be out of the country, drinking margaritas and probably drinking like I'm 21 again, but I'm not. I'm 40, so lots of liquid IV and lots of sunscreen. So
that's how it goes.
On the island,
baby.
Need it. We all need it. Well, Meg and I need it. The kids are just lucky enough that we're allowing them to come.
That's exactly it.
That's it. Like if it was my choice, I would fucking send them to like a doggy daycare for a week.
Oh yeah. 100%. Done deal.
But yeah, man, that's it. That's it. That's all I got. I wish I had more fishy stuff, but I haven't even uncovered the fucking boat since Georgia, dude.
Really? Oh, well, yeah, Georgia just came back. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's been fucking raining and shit, and so yeah, haven't even uncovered it.
So I got to tell you, Saturday night, something fucking kind of amazing happened.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you this video. Actually, do I have it on to be able to share here? I don't know. I do.
I did stumble upon this bad boy.
What's that?
Remember, dude?
Oh, yeah. The hat. Absolutely, dude. So
I don't even know. I think Dave handed this to me. I didn't buy this. Someone else just handed it to me.
So Binya had a week, and I feel for Binya. I really do.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
He had a week. Saturday night while I was at the show, he sent me this video.
Back this beautiful smallmouth out, guys. This might be a PB smallmouth. I'm not gonna. No! Fucking A. Damn it.
So
wiggled right out of his fingers.
He takes it out of the net and he's like, this might be a PB smallmouth, guys. And he goes and I think he was putting the net back and was holding the fish over, and the fish like just kind of kicked and it just slipped right out and he just dropped him. So I was like, I didn't even know until I got home. I was like in my driveway. I pulled up, just loaded up a chillum full of jigglers and lit that sucker up. And I was like, that's right. Binya texted me. So he's like, yeah, he's like the definition of heartbreak. That one definitely hurt. And I was like, this was at 12:40 at night, Saturday night. I go, no, dude. You're going to blow up with views, bro. That's a plus side right there.
Yeah, that's 100% right.
Yep. I was like,
that's a great, and that not only should he include that in his long video, that would be a great reel.
Oh, and I said to him, I was like, you're going to go viral for this. I said, you're going to be the next Megan Long harder meme. I'm like, that's going to be you, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're going to be on Reddit and shit. And he was like, he goes, isn't that the sad truth though? He goes, the reality is sometimes failing like that, it's just super beneficial for the content. And I told him, I was like, do the video. I'm going to troll you hard. And
perfect. I'll make sure I do too.
I already started. He sent me the raw video and I made a couple of things. Like I went to a couple of spots that specifically are just going to trigger people that are so hyper relatable.
And we'll make sure I'll help you. We'll make sure we hit those trigger words to alleviate, like that makes volume happen and other people see it.
Yep. 100%. Where it's just like, oh, I can relate to that. You know, oh, when you like, dude, here's one to get to all the people in Massachusetts and New England for that one.
Yep.
The feeling when you pull away from Dunkin' Donuts and your coffee is not the right shade. Fucking A.
Which everybody who lives up here
exactly.
knows.
Everybody knows that.
But no one ever goes back and has them remake it.
Nope.
Like you just like, well, just dealing with it.
Just going to drink this fucking hot cup of sock water.
So let me ask you that. Let's veer off from this, Bobby. What's your biggest heartbreak in the last like 2-3 years fishing? I know mine.
The biggest one, the one that comes to mind immediately is this was like last April. I think, it was last April. It was the day that I caught that giant brown trout, but I lost a huge bass. And it was just pure like stupidity, playing it like a dipshit, not really, letting it ride. But what's yours?
So mine was over at Hartwell when
okay.
I don't think it was quite what my PB is now. I think it would have been my PB then. Yeah. I just like flipped the bush and the water is so clear there that like I saw it and it just so happened it brought me back it came up, I saw it, brought me back to the bush and just broke me off. And I was so mad, dude. Like I have since gone to anger management.
Yep. Fair.
It got me so mad, dude. I like spiked my rod onto the deck and it bounced right into the water.
That's fucking shit. That's the worst because you're like, fuck.
Yeah. So I lose, a $400 combo in the. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit down. I'm gonna just putt around and do side scan before I kill something or somebody.
Yeah, it's just like you just gotta. There was one that was really bad too when I was with Paul and I netted his fish and my combo went over the edge of the boat or it might have been when I fucking backed my truck into that gas pump when I was towing the boat.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Now they're all coming back to me. Fuck.
Yeah. Yep. I thought you were going to mention the M word. Possibly the M word.
I think that that fish, like if it was like a 50, yeah,
sure,
you know what I mean. But this was like probably like a 23 inch fish, 23, 25 inch fish, nothing crazy. Would have been the first muskie, but it is what it is. I think and I'm also planning like other trips to St. Clair, like. The second, I'm talking with Dylan Grubb, the extreme outdoorsman, about getting him on the show and specifically talking like St. Clair and Midwest fishing out in that way. Oh, and speaking of Midwest fishing, dude, I watched that ND Yak Angler video.
Did you?
I did.
The one I mentioned,
that guy just. And that's not a great day for fishing necessarily. Like it's a great day, but like, what did he catch? Like, 2 19s and a 20?
Yeah. So solid fit, like crazy,
fantastic
smallmouth. Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I also didn't realize that he had a collaboration with Achigan.
I noticed that shortly after we got back from Columbus. I saw it somewhere. Yeah,
I was on the Achigan website.
Okay.
So I was looking actually there's a hat that I was looking for and they don't have it anymore. I think I missed the boat on it. Mm-hmm. Last time I saw this design actually was in Columbus and I should have jumped on it then, but sad. I was on the website looking and I was like, no shit. I was like, that's a perfect collaboration,
Yeah.
Cause he's like, yeah, man. Now
we got to tell them to give us a shout so we can get them on the show.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We definitely got to do that shit.
All right.
Oh, you want to do some headlines?
Let's do some headlines. I got a few here.
I love that. Let's do some headlines.
All right, Bobby. So this first thing I'm going to say, I'm not going to read this article.
Yep.
But did you know that a 9.5 pound largemouth bass was caught in an Ohio pond recently?
Really?
I say inch or pound.
Pound.
9.5 pound largemouth was caught in an Ohio pond because I know how we talk about Ohio fishing. It's not the best or whatever. So there's a 9.5 pound. So maybe we'll read that like next week, but I just noticed that and I was like, oh, we got a lot of Ohio folks to include Eli Self in here right now. Go find out what pond that was and go catch that 9.5 pounder. Anywho, let's get to the real stories. Bobby, small hybridized bass are taking over North Carolina waters. Can you guess what type of bass it is?
They're spots? Alabama spots?
Yes.
Yeah? Fucking jerks.
So, and after reading this, it makes me, I am like 94% positive that it was Alabama's that we're catching down at West Point. And I'll tell you why. So, North Carolina biologists are afraid that pure strain native smallmouth, spotted, and largemouth bass population in North Carolina are being degraded and eliminated by invasive Alabama bass, creating a cautionary tale for other states nationwide. We're concerned that our pure strain smallmouth bass fishery in North Carolina soon could be gone, especially in the mountain rivers and lakes, says Ken Hodges, not Ken, Ken with an I, says Ken Hodges, a state fisheries biologist for 29 years, so he knows his shit. Aggressive Alabama bass are much smaller than other black bass species. Makes a lot of sense for West Point. And in time, they can hybridize and diminish larger pure strain native bass species. That hybridization eventually will gravely impact the size of bass North Carolina anglers have historically caught. The invasive hybrid bass issue is a complicated fisheries management problem in North Carolina and other states in the Southeast. It can take a decade or two for Bama bass to completely take over rivers and lakes, and if they aren't managed, they absolutely will take over, and it will result in a population of significantly smaller hybridized bass. Hodges says that sometimes when Bama bass get into a lake or river, the resulting first years of hybridization seems to show that the hybrid bass are bigger. But in time, the more aggressive Alabama strain spotted bass breed continuously to diminish the larger pure strain native bass species. Anglers may believe they're catching larger 4 to 5 pound smallmouth from a lake today, but the fish are largely hybrid Alabama bass. The species is often mistakenly identified as a smallmouth or spotted bass by anglers because of their appearance and is very similar, but they are truly a separate species that can outcompete and replace native black bass. This causes a bass population to be dominated by high numbers of Alabama bass, which on average considerably smaller than native bass. I'm looking at a picture here, and a 1-year-old largemouth and a 1-year-old, the Bama bass, it's like a third of the size. In the coming years, the bass will become smaller and smaller, eventually becoming virtually 100% Bama bass that weigh just a pound or two on average. Also makes sense for West Point.
Yep.
Alabama bass interbreed particularly fast with smallmouth and spotted bass, and within just a few years can become as ingrained that native bass strains are eliminated by more aggressive and much smaller Bama bass. Mature Alabama bass are typically 1 to 2 pounds in size. Once hybridization occurs in rivers and lakes with larger native black bass, says Hodges, a fishery that once had 5-pound smallmouth and 6 or 8 pound largemouth is doomed to eventually harbor only 2-pound class hybridized Bama bass. Hybridization occurs more slowly in largemouth populations, especially in lakes, but it will occur, Hodges says, and the Alabama bass problem is spreading. Hodges says that they have crossed into Virginia waters and are spreading in many rivers and connecting lake systems that may be the canary in a coal mine, perhaps foretelling bass problems in other southeastern states and perhaps even the whole country. This is a cautionary tale for other states nationwide that Alabama bass could be a potential threat to smallmouth, spotted, and largemouth fisheries everywhere. It's a tale that folks in Tennessee are more than familiar with. That state made drastic changes to its creel limits for 2025 in light of the realization that its smallmouth population has become extremely hybridized. While North Carolina fisheries staff are aggressively removing Alabama bass wherever they find them, Hodges says anglers are the key to stopping the spread of the invasive species. Fishermen are being called on to help to protect states' larger black bass species for Bama bass hybridization. It is not possible to eradicate Alabama bass strain where they have become established, but reducing their numbers and stopping their spread as much as possible minimizes their impact on other bass species. while catch and release for other black bass species has been instrumental in maintaining the quality of North Carolina bass fisheries, releasing Alabama bass is not good for a state's water. So North Carolina wants anglers to harvest all Alabama bass they catch.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Every Alabama bass that anglers keep makes room for a native bass to prosper. Once Bama bass hybridize with smallmouth bass in a body of water, the problem is almost impossible to eliminate. Alabama, so it just keeps kind of going on. But so the one thing that they noticed, there's a little way to tell for these Bama bass. Mm-hmm. And this is the one thing we noticed on the bass in West Point. They have a tooth patch on their tongue. So
don't spots have a tooth patch on their tongue?
I thought so too, but they're just saying the Alabama strain in this article have them. Hold on, I'm looking. The tooth patch on the tongue of an Alabama bass is a key indicator for species. So maybe they do. Maybe the standard spots do, maybe. But that's kind of. So yeah, so that's that. The Bama bass are making their way north, Bobby.
Well, and once they're in the river systems, like they can get in.
So
many other spots. You know, I mean, all the tributaries, all that stuff, and
yeah,
it's shitty. It is. It sucks, man. I'm telling you, dude.
Yeah, it's
a nice idea to think that like people are going to cull those fish.
Yeah.
But I think you're only going to get a certain percentage of anglers that will, number one, play ball. Yeah. And then number two, you've got to plan for there being some kind of error, mis-IDing a fish. You're like,
that was the next thing I was going to say. Yep.
And it's like, and you know, then you gotta, maybe you got to start stocking those species you want to keep in there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know?
Yep. Just a kind of constant fight with them. So next story I have is this bowling ball smallmouth was caught in Michigan, was busting at the seams, and a fisherman shared photos and only a few details about the small he caught on a crankbait over the weekend.
Really?
Yep. So spring is fat bass season in the Great Lakes region as the big egg-laden females get ready to spawn. It's during this time of year that some of the heaviest smallmouth bass are typically landed, and fish caught this past weekend in Michigan's Upper Peninsula is a testament to just how bloated these fish can get. Steve Schwartz of Grand Rapids shared photos of the chonky 8-pound 1-ounce smallie.
Holy
the bass.
Shit.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let's for you guys here. I want Bobby to see this.
And that's the way they described it too, is bowling ball. That's an 8-pound.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy fuck knuckles.
Yep. How crazy is that?
That's twice the size of the big smallie I caught up at St. Clair.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Uh-oh. We lost Joe. Joe disappeared. Don't worry, folks. I'll go ahead and fix this in post, and I'm sure we'll get him connected. I was just tinkering around looking for that Michigan bowling ball. That's exactly what they called it, bowling ball smallmouth. Hey,
like nothing ever happened. So a new computer. This is only the second show I've done on this computer, and I didn't have like sharing like on there yet. And I was like, I just said quit and restart, and that's what made me do. So it kicked me right out of Chrome.
I genuinely feel like that fish swallowed a fucking like a bowling ball.
Did you see it?
Yeah, it's frightening.
Oh yeah, wild, dude.
It is crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna move this to a new tab, and then I'm gonna move to a new window rather, and then I'm gonna try to share it so everybody can see it. The jig heads that are in here. Present. Window. Which window? Fire. No. That's weird. All right. So much for that. There we go. Jesus Christ, that's monstrous.
How crazy is that?
It looks
just absolutely insane.
Honest to God, it looks like it's like literally just about to spew eggs everywhere.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that's a giant
crazy. It's not even like real looking. You know what I mean?
No.
It's like one of those things one of those ones you see like mounted in like an old school bait shop.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on.
There's like, there's no way.
Like, you know how, there's a couple of those fish like that, and I know you've seen them at the Thousand Islands tackle shop where you're like, come on.
Like, yeah, where you're just like, someone's bullshitting.
Yeah.
Someone's fucking lying.
Yeah.
God damn, that's a tank, dude.
Yep.
That's a big fucking
that's a
small.
big one.
8 pounds
That's
is
a
like
big one.
massive.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so he was very quiet about where it was. He just said it was a crankbait, but it was 8 pounds, 1 ounce. But I saw that thing and I was like, I have to show this. So that's awesome, what we have for the stories and the headlines.
Not too shabby, man. Not too shabby at all. So here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna take a real quick break. Okay, we're gonna come back around. We're gonna do just the tip, and I think we're gonna do gear of the week too. I'm gonna talk about that pig jigs rod. Did I already talk about that pig jigs rod or no?
You did.
I did. Yeah. I caught a mess of fish with it, but
yeah.
Did I ever mention what my PB was in that story?
No, you didn't.
No. Oh, well, this will be very interesting. I got a new PB tiger trout when I went out on Sunday. Yeah,
that's awesome. Those things are fucking cool,
dude. They're so cool. And like, so I had gone out to. It was like I said, after the concert, my plan was to get up early to go and visit my mom in the morning and then fish like the rest of the day and just take like the rest of the day and fish until dark. Did not happen. So I got up and I texted my mom and I was like, hey, happy Mother's Day. I was like, when's a good time for me to stop by today? And she says, come by. She goes, she had a birthday party to go to. She's like, I won't be home till about 3. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to, I guess, fish early and then stop by over there and then figure out what the hell I'm going to do, afterwards.
Yeah.
My wife was working, so I actually, my kids stopped me and they needed me to run to the pharmacy to pick up some scripts. So I was like, all right, I'll pick everything up there. Great. I had to get a card anyway, so I did all that and I head on my way. And I was like, I could fish. I ended up fishing this one pond that I used to fish with my dad all the time. In fact, last time he and I fished there, we ended up getting like a limit each on rainbow trout. It was ridiculous. Yep. And we go over there and this is like this one area is super, super grassy. And I've caught some pretty decent bass there. And actually, I think there's some state records that have come up. Not state records, but like decent sized pin winning fish. Large ones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and we'll send it. I get over there and the boat launch over there is a poor excuse for a launch, but it's just insanity. Like a bunch of paddlers doing their thing and everything else. I go out and I'm throwing around finesse swim bait and some more like conventional size stuff. Yeah. And I was like, I think I'm just gonna downsize a little bit, see if we can't actually like get a bite because I haven't had a bite so far. We'll downsize. We'll see if that has anything. Immediately, I start getting bit. A lot of dink bass. Nothing crazy. Sure. And then usually when I fish an area, I like to take and make a few casts a little bit deeper just to kind of test how things are. So I go and that's how I do that. My first cast out on a tiny finesse swim bait. It was one of the HH Customs guppies. Right? Yep. This trout smoked this freaking jig. Really? Like just smoked it. I was like, holy shit, that's great. So I thought this was a good sized bass initially. I get him over. I was like, holy crap. I was like, that's a tiger. That's awesome. Unfortunately, it was Sunday, so it didn't do me any good for the open, but yeah, came in at, I forget what the official measurement was for it, but it was pretty decent size. Weird release. I released this fish and then he swam down immediately. And I wasn't in super deep water, maybe like 5 foot, like that. Swam down immediately, but was belly up on the bottom. And I'm like,
interesting.
That's weird. And some people that I knew on a pontoon boat, they were just doing laps because they're like burning gas. So they're like just going around, and I'm like, I'm waiting for them to go by so I can take a leak. So I go over to the side of the boat, and I'm taking a whiz, and I'm like, I'm gonna go take a peek over there. When I looked over at that same spot, he'd swam off.
Okay.
But I don't know if he I released him and he went down. He was like, oh, it's just kind of nice down there. I guess I'll just lay on my back and chill.
That was like, strange though.
Because I was like, if he wasn't going to make it, I was going to keep him, you know?
Right.
I'm like, but he's 5 foot down. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get him with my net. But yeah, he took off. So that was a good one. I heard that there were some stocked tigers recently, and like probably like within the last month or so. Yeah. And it's, you don't come across them too often, but when you do, they are pretty freaking cool. And this is a pretty good one. So I was like, oh, it's not too bad. I'm okay with that. So yeah, it was good fish. I was pretty stoked. And yeah, that about does it for me. But we'll go ahead. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll do just a tip, gear of the week. And actually, maybe not even gear of the week because I've already talked about the pig jigs rod. I'm really kind of hoping to get on a big with it to give some feedback for that.
Decent. Yeah,
I've caught a lot of fish with it, but just nothing of like real of size. So even if it's a pickerel, I'll take it. Like let's make that shit happen. But we'll take a short break, guys. We'll be back in a bit. Don't go too far. More Jigs and Bigs goodness coming up right after this.
And perhaps play a little game called Just a Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels. Or, ouch, ouch, you're on my hair.
Okay.
Bobby, it's spawn time. Bobby, it's spawn time, and I totally just screwed that up and took the wrong cue.
Oh, it's okay, man. I was lip syncing the fucking thing like an idiot.
Okay, I was like, oh, is that the signal? Is that is that the signal? Like one of the old movies, dude. Like, oh no, that wasn't the signal.
Yeah, Jay's right. I did. I said grinding my gears and shakes of lamb's tail in the same cast. Yeah, fucking getting old past the inshore, friends.
Yep. So what do we got? Time up here in New England, and this tip doesn't really just have partake, to New England. It kind of go for everywhere, but we're just kind of in that time here. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, what you want to do is you want to focus on transition zones between spawning flats and slightly deeper water.
Yeah,
and here's why: 6 to 10 feet, especially near points, inside turns, or channels that lead into coves. Bass that just spawned will be resting nearby or feeding before moving out. So we know that they get in those spawning flats, they get the job done. Then the big mamas, they lay their eggs, and then they take a little meal, and then they kind of disappear. And then we got to look for them for the next 2 months in that deeper water. So, drop shots, finesse worms, even like top water, spooks. I don't know if we're quite in the top water area quite yet here. But even like swim jigs, bladed jigs, fish in around those spawning flats. You find the spawning flats, you can pick males off the beds all day long. You can work them, run a lure through them once or twice. They're going to hit it, but it's the mamas, not the papas, that you want to get on your hook, especially if you're tournament fishing. Depending on where you are, there might still be some females up in those spawning flats.
Yeah.
My guess I haven't fished here since I've been in Georgia. My guess is they're probably already dropping most places, getting ready to move out. So like I said, any of that medium depth water, that 5, 10, 12 feet in around those spawning flats, that's where you need to start hitting right now. That's where you need to start hitting because they're going to move their way to that deeper water if they have access to. If it's not a deep body of water, they're going to be looking for that structure, things like that. Yeah. And they are not going to be looking to eat much. So you might have a little harder time. Now's the time to get them when they're eating, getting ready to move out deep, get out there, find the spawning flats, find the points, find that a little bit deeper water and get on them.
What's wild is like at least the handful of lakes and ponds that I've fished within the last few weeks, I haven't seen an active bass bed. Anywhere.
Really?
I haven't seen any of them. And I've seen like spots in areas where I'm like, these look like bluegill beds. Like they're so close to each other. You know what I mean? Like that honeycomb-ish kind of pattern, but like not really necessarily. Yeah. But like today I was on one and there was a bunch of, it ended up being like, this is where I was catching a shitload of those crappie. Sure. And I would see like these little clearings that look like, are those beds necessarily? And I would see a few fish here and there, and I would just kind of drag my finesse swim bait and go like cast along like on that deeper end. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was getting a bunch of them. But I was like, I noticed that. I was like, I don't think I've seen like a bass on a bed so far this year.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, they have been fucked up. The water temperature is probably still pretty low.
Yeah.
So, again, I haven't been on the water up here in a few weeks. So maybe I'm wrong and they haven't hit it yet. And if that's the point, definitely get out there because you haven't missed it yet.
You haven't, exactly.
Get those big mamas.
And elevation's going to come into play too. Like if you're a little higher elevation out where I am, or if you go even into the Berkshires, that's going to delay a little bit more too. But
we're on the Cape. They're probably definitely
like what you're talking now. I would think so. Yeah, even with the rain and stuff. But it's crazy. Like I'm like, I normally always see at least a handful of active beds on like whatever body water. But there's a couple of spots I've been doing. I got nothing this year. I was like, right. Although I will say one of those bodies of water is Congamon Jr. And I haven't been able to pull out a largemouth out of there that's been longer than 11.5 inches. I think it was today, maybe one day where I got a 12. Today, I might have gotten a 12 today. Yeah, that's a fucking 10. Oh, it's the worst, Joe. It's the worst.
I feel you, dude. That's how West Point was, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This guy here was a 12. This guy was a 12. And he was a pain in the ass too to measure. But it's crazy.
Yep.
Let's do this. Let's go ahead. We'll transition right now, right into the interview with Kat Diep. Kat is she fishes exclusively from the bank. And she told me, she was like, Bobby, other than like a charter, I've never fished from a boat before. And I'm like,
we gotta change that.
I'm gonna come down and I've been saying this and I said the same thing to Jose in our interview. I was like, my wife and I have literally been looking at tour dates for the Flaming Lips, and we're like, we should just go and see them in Oklahoma City, their hometown, and just see what the vibe is there. And we're going to go. Kat also loves the fish whistle, just like Bobby Roast Beef does. So we have a great conversation about that. It's really good stuff. It's really good stuff. You guys can check out her Instagram. She's probably most active right there. Hooked on Cat. C-A-T, not K-A-T. And we'll go ahead. We'll throw it right over the interview right now. We'll see you guys on the backside of that. All right, guys, Bobby Roast Beef here with Jigs and Bigs. We got more good stuff going on. We've got a new guest this week for us, someone I'm excited to talk about because they are also very, very into the world of bait finesse fishing, and I love that. We got Kat Diep with us. Kat, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. This is crazy because 2 weeks in a row now we've had guests that are out of Oklahoma. Yep. Which is pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Jose Cinco, Bait and Bougie was on last week, and now we've got you on. And I forget, there was somebody. Our paths crossed. I want to say it was Chris. That maybe had suggested I get in touch with you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Chris.
Chris.
He's a listener. And he was like, you got to get Kat on the show and talk. He's like, you like bait fishing. You're a big fish whistle guy. So this is going to be a good sort of match. And I think that is awesome. So glad to have you on, Kat. Let's kind of start from the beginning. Introduce everybody, like your sort of the origin story. How did you come into the world of fishing, and how did it ramp up to the point where it is now for you?
Oh man, this is a good question to ask. I mean, just being part of my culture, if you've ever noticed, a lot of people of Vietnamese descent love fishing. So it's kind of our origin story, where we came from. Most of the country is surrounded by water, so it's deep rooted, you know, in our blood.
Oh yeah.
And I just started fishing with my uncle, my dad, and my couple cousins ever since I was a kid. And ever since then, you could not pull me away from the water. I'd be out, and it'd be time to go, and I'd be like, "No, I want to keep fishing." And
That's
back then, it was old school.
Yep.
Spinning reel, bobber, little minnow or worm, and that's kind of where it started.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And where the obsession started with it. And I just always wanted to continue fishing. I loved being outdoors and spending time in nature and just taking that all in. And just the excitement and that dopamine of catching fish was so addictive to me that I just wanted to continue doing it. And I tried really hard, you know, beyond childhood. I'd always go fish with my dad up until I graduated high school and everything.
Nice.
But beyond that, when I got to college, I kind of stopped a little bit, but I would pick it up every once in a while. But ever since then, after that, I would just go, whenever I was feeling down, I'd go out to the lake. And before I even picked up my rod again, it was just a place for me to go and feel at peace, was being at the lake. But I did not have the confidence to go out and fish on my own, like individually, without having somebody like my cousin or my father or my uncle with me. So it was just something that I wanted to take the chance to go learn, but never really did.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of relied on YouTube. And I watched a bunch of YouTubers all the time. And I was like, what are they talking about? Like braid to leader and connecting all these things at this kind of this level of braid, this pound test, and then what you're using from this lure to that lure. I never fished lures up until probably, I want to say 2018. Never fished with lures before in my life.
That's kind of how it was for me, you know, like live bait for the primarily, you know, like that's how it was for me. But, and you know, it's funny too, like, thank God for YouTube, you know, being that it's the second largest search engine in the world. It introduces people to all sorts of different things. And it was the same sort of situation that I had as well, where there was tons of stuff that I did, like even tying the knots. You know, I couldn't remember from when I was a kid how to tie a fisherman's knot. And I was like, I kept messing it up. And I did a little bit of research and was able to come up with a handful of different knots. And from there, it's just like, it's amazing the things you can learn.
Absolutely. You know, like everything is just YouTube. And it was a place that I could just turn to whenever I needed something.
That's awesome.
Especially with fishing. Yeah. And then it was just beyond that with finding creators that I really enjoyed watching back then. You know, I was really just stuck inside a lot with school and work and never really got to go out too much. So just being able to just open up YouTube, put on my favorite creator and learn while enjoying their content was a huge deal for me.
That's awesome.
And what actually launched me into fishing a lot more and like actually doing it was going through a hard spot in my life and relying on these creators to provide comfort for me, basically, while I'm watching. And I try to tell people all the time, it's not just about fishing what you're doing. What you're doing is opening a whole different world to all your viewers and being something that they can turn to when they need that.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I love that. What were some of the creators that you started to follow that kind of introduced you to it and got you fired up?
Let's see. Raw Fishing was one of them.
Jimmy's great.
Of course. I love watching him. One Rod, One Reel.
Yep.
Northwest Fishing Secrets, Fisherman's Life. Those were all my top whenever go to watch. You know, subscribe, new videos. I was on it every day back then. Less busy with work and stuff back in those days. But yeah, that's just something I would love to tune in every day and learn from them. And just watching that, I was like, I wish I could do that. Or I just wish I could catch fish like that, because I never went pond hopping or anything before watching their videos. But after watching them, I was like, I want to do that and catch fish like that. And especially bass. I never bass fished before up until 2018.
That's what I was curious about. Like, you know, a lot of people will say like, oh, when I started fishing, I would just kind of go and fish for anything that was biting. I wasn't targeting anything. What was the turning point for you? And what are some of your favorite species?
Turning point was just watching these creators constantly catch bass. I was like, it looks like so much fun. I've never even seen a largemouth in person. And that's really weird growing up in Oklahoma, because there is a pretty large, you know, community here for bass fishing. It was just something I was not exposed to. My parents, we fish to eat, fish for survival. So we were like catfish, getting on the white bass, getting on bluegill, which I still love fishing for all of those species.
Yeah.
But mostly now, of course, just chasing the biggest largemouth I can find.
Yep.
But for me, it still kind of holds the same. Anything I can fish for, any catch is fine for me.
Yep.
I don't really have a target when I go out unless it's a specific area that I know of a species that I really want to catch.
See, I think you would love one of the things that we do at Jigs and Bigs is that we have an online tournament trail. So people can, take part in all this stuff. We do have a bass tournament that's really popular. And it's a slot limit tournament. So folks that have giants like you guys do in Oklahoma are able to be competitive with somebody who's in Massachusetts like I am, where we have if you catch a 5-pounder, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it kind of levels the playing field. But the one thing I think you would love is we do an online multi-species month-long scavenger hunt.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's so much fun. And, we hear it all the time from people. They're just like, oh, I don't have all these species of trout near me or everything. That's the point. We want to get people interested in traveling. And you've got a month to do it. So if you're, planning a trip, a couple hours away or something like that, where you can find an area that's got some of these species, go ahead and check them off. It's awesome. We're doing our first open this month, next week. Actually, it starts on Monday. I'm scared. I'm up against 2 hammers. I've never won. I've come close, but I've never won.
That sounds pretty dope. That just sounds
I think it's right up
my alley. Yeah, for sure.
And it's
100%.
It's great because you can go out there and say, okay, so the only planning you really need to do is to go to a body of water where you can find those species. Where you've got where you can figure out that they're there. It's so much fun. We have a blast with it. And the thing is, I was saying this with Jose last week about bass specifically. I think largemouth, because they're so plentiful, they're hardy. They can handle being caught and released, and for the most part, there's some conversation about delayed mortality and stuff like that. But they're also easy to handle because they have basically a giant handle that you can grab them with.
100%.
So with a lot of I find newbie anglers, that's the biggest thing that they're concerned with is I don't know how to handle the fish, and they're freaking out. I'm going to freak out. What's the right thing to do? And there's a lot of you nailed it when you mentioned confidence. I think that's a big deal. I would never fish by myself for a long time, and then eventually it was boredom that kind of pushed me to just say nope, I'm going. Then I realized I love it. I love it. How did you get into the world of bait finesse, though?
Bait finesse, my uncle actually introduced it to me.
Oh, really?
When I first started fishing again, I started doing just spinning reel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the first thing I ever caught with a bat, or first bass I ever caught with a soft plastic was, of course, a black and blue Senko.
Yep.
I was like, well, they always say this is the easiest thing to use to catch a bass. And it was in Texas because I live in both places. I was born and raised in Oklahoma, but I spent a lot of time in Texas too.
Nice.
And, in the DFW area, so many different neighborhood ponds, so many places to hit up, great place to start and learn.
Yeah.
And so after I caught my first bass on the plastic, I was like, oh my God, you mean I can just carry this in my car and just pull over to a pond and fish whenever I want?
Yeah. Because
in my head growing up, it was always a big ordeal for fishing. Pack up the night before, get up really early, get your bait, and you're set, and that's all you're doing. And I was like, wait, this is a whole new world. I think also moving to Texas really helped me out with that.
Oh, for sure.
So I started fishing more, meeting up with my uncle that lived in Texas. That we really didn't hang out much prior to that, but he caught wind that I started fishing again, so we met up.
Yep.
And I found that I really liked finesse techniques, but I wanted to learn baitcaster, and with the little techniques I wanted to do, my baitcaster really wasn't throwing it, obviously, as far as I wanted it to be. Yep. And I wasn't really using a lot of weight. He was like, well, have you heard of this thing called, BFS? And he showed me he told me about it. And I was like, huh. And this is around the same time I started picking up watching raw fishing.
Yep.
And I was oh, wait. So I'm educating myself at the same time.
That's awesome.
And then I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And back then, this was 4 years ago almost now. It's the world of bait finesse was not that big as it is now.
Yeah.
And I don't think even with the newcomers coming into it, don't really realize how much it's grown. It's not something that's always been around.
Yeah.
2018, 2019, I hadn't even heard of it yet. But back in 2021, 22, when I really started getting back into it, I was trying to find something reasonably priced, and it was almost impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Back in those years to find something. You couldn't get on Amazon, Temu, or AliExpress to find a reasonably priced reel or rod just to try it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And these days, the beauty of it is there, and it gets me so hyped up to see a lot more people picking it up.
Yeah.
That's where it started for me, was about 2022, really getting into the bait finesse, and I really haven't put it down since.
It is interesting, I find, because I see that, like, you know, a lot of other podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff, they'll jump on and, you know, one specifically, initially when I started getting interested in bait finesse, it was Jeff and Paul over at Aggressively Average Anglers. They had reviewed like a bunch of different BFS gear, and I was like, you know, that just sounds really cool. I'd like to check it out, because my big thing was like, I find a lot of comfort in fishing in the extremes. You know, a lot of that conventional tackle, that's the stuff that they see all the time.
Right.
So, like, you know, if I'm fishing topwater, I'm going to throw a 6-ounce glide bait, like a giant rat, something like that. Or I'm going to throw like a 3/32 ounce jig. You know, because I feel like there's, in those extreme sizes, there's a lot of, there's a lot more, it's a lot more rare for these fish to see these profiles.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So when I fish prime, I fish almost exclusively public water, and these bodies of water just get destroyed. Like, the fishing pressure is insane. So it really does kind of help. You know, using finesse techniques is great. Most bass anglers that I have gotten to know will take maybe 1 or 2 finesse combos, you know. Something for like a drop shot, something for like a wacky rig, pretty much, you know, or maybe a Ned if they're, you know, if they have to stoop that low and throw like a Ned rig, you know what I mean? Because there's haters.
Not the Ned rig.
It's crazy. And then, you know, I realized, I was like, if that's what the bite is, like, I realized early on, I was like, if they're biting on those finesse techniques, like, I just get crazy carpal tunnel, and it gets aggravated by holding a spinning rod. You know, just the grip that you need. It's
the grip and the angle and everything.
And holding, even though it's a much smaller bait casting reel, holding that reel, I can fish like that all day long.
Right.
You know,
it's comfortable. It's lightweight.
It's way more efficient
I'm keeping 2-3 different BFS combos on me because it's not heavy for me at all on my tiny little backpack. You know, it's a perfect grab and go, super efficient, like you said, just being able to cast and then reel cast, really sitting there trying to find those fish. And like you said, changing up the presentation means so much.
Totally.
And it makes such a big difference, you know. And I kind of go with that for myself too. Like, you know, what makes you stand out from the rest of the pack? Yeah. You know, if you look like everyone else, and if you're fishing like everyone else, and you may get the same results. And if everyone's getting skunked there because you're all throwing the same Senko, the same crankbait, you know, I mean, gotta change something. Yeah. And it's funny you bring up the extremes, because even the other day I was like, why do I have it in me that I really want to get a big swim bait set up? I was like, I'm normally a bait finesse, but for some reason I want this big old swim bait set up just to see what it's like, because I'm seeing all these videos with the glide baits and it looks so addicting.
And it can be, for sure. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think it's funny. Like, I find there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I want to get into BFS, but like, there's 1 or 2 camps. They'll go and they'll buy that one combo, and what they're doing is they're basically throwing like a Ned rig on it, or a weightless Senko, or you know, something like that. And they're just like, I don't know if it's worth it. And I find, like, you know, it was only just this year that I realized that they're starting to group bait finesse fishing into the power bait finesse, and then more of like the true ultralight bait finesse. Yes. And I think when you realize that, like, and you just mentioned it, carrying multiple rods, when I first got into this, I was like, oh yeah, I'll put a, you know, BFS combo together, and that'll be it. I'll be good to go. And I started with a Shimano Majestic XT, which was a light rod, and it's pretty fast. It really is.
That's a great rod.
I love it. It's fantastic. I have caught huge fish on that combo. like absolute just giants. A PB smallmouth of mine that was 19 inches and a 24-inch brown trout on that. And I mean, it holds up great. It is a little bit fast, or so casting anything really. Like if I wanted to throw something that was like a true 16th ounce weight, like without an extra plastic or something else on there to make it a bit heavier, it was a little bit difficult to get the distance I wanted and the accuracy I knew I was capable of. So I got one of the listeners of the show actually had tossed me this rod. It's a Ben Key ultralight. It's I had just ordered from Pig Jigs one of their custom BFS rods. And this thing is out of this world. That is my new favorite combo, that with the Tatula. And it's amazing the distance that I can get out of this because it's much more of a moderate action. And it lends itself so much better to those like sub 16th ounce baits. It's just absolutely wild. So there's like, even within that niche of finesse fishing, there's still a spectrum, and I think that a lot of people are just like, I'll just use a spinning rod for that. And it's like, when I first started throwing like really light stuff for the multi-species things, I was actually cutting off my drop shot. I used to carry just 2 spinning combos as my finesse combos. One is a 7.3 medium light, right? Extra fast. That was primarily for like drop shots and stuff. And then I would throw a 7-foot medium. I just had it for like those weightless soft plastics or like super light, Ned rigs or something like that. And there was one day I was fishing with a friend of mine and she goes, she's like, we're fishing in a multi-species scavenger hunt. And this body of water has a reputation of having very low numbers of largemouth. Primarily you're catching like yellow perch, different trout species, rock bass, all of these things that are on the scavenger hunt. And she's like, you got to try throwing this. And she hands me a Johnson beetle spin. And I'm like, really? Okay, I'll give it a shot. So I put it on that 7-foot medium, and that rod was too heavy to throw that 1/32 ounce. That not even counting. That was a 1/32 ounce jig with the beetle on it and the arm
and the spinner.
And I was like, I am getting no casting out of this at all. So I took my medium light and I started throwing that. I was like, this is much better. Once I did that, I started just cleaning house. It was great. So I'm like, and that got me really kind of thinking. I'm like, I could be so much more efficient if this was a bait caster, and I could just cast with one hand, boom,
Yep.
pick up slack.
I haven't used a spinning rod in I don't know how long. Honestly, because BFS combos, they covers everything. I have really no use for a spinning rod anymore. At all. Even just thinking about casting a 1/32 ounce, I'm like, I don't even think I have a spinning rod that can handle that. Do it,
yeah.
Or without having to downsize the line to a point where it's just not efficient. Also, and with me, when I'm walking around, I'll have one ultralight setup.
Yep.
And then also one light setup.
Yeah.
And if I'm feeling like there's going to be some big ones in there, if I need to see a little bit more oomph, then I'll go up to medium light.
Yeah.
But usually it's just ultralight and light's my go-to.
Yep.
One to throw the really little stuff, to catch anything else that's there, and if I'm not catching any bass, I'll throw that around to try to find some fish. But even then, I'm catching big old bass on that tiny little lure.
Yeah.
And so people always say, big lures catch big bass, and which is true.
Yep.
But I would never count out the little lures because I've caught on a 1/16 ounce just a 3-pound bass. Like I've done that 3 times this year. And it's shocking to me because it just seems like, how is it hooking into this really thick upper lip of this bass? But it's happening. And it's just having that rod doubled over that way and really fighting that bass. It's just no better feeling, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. And the drag, let's be honest, like the drag helps so much to be able to, actually make it a realistic battle when you're trying to bring in a monster. What's your situation down there like with heavy cover? Up here, I don't even throw a frog that much because up here we have so much more sparse cover than other parts of the country. Down where you are, like I've one of my old co-hosts, Sean the Fisherman, lived in Oklahoma for a short bit, and he's like, some of the places with wood, forget it. What's your experience fishing heavy cover with BFS, or do you primarily avoid it and fish around it?
So it's funny you asked this because up until maybe 3 weeks ago, I avoided it like the plague because I'm like, dude, I've got 6-pound line.
Yeah.
If I get wrapped around one little weed that's sticking up right there, it's game over because I'm going to sit here and try and pull it because I'm impatient and I'm going to rip that lure off
We've
right
all
then
done
and there.
it.
I know myself. I'm going to lose it. Like there's no point in throwing it over there. But I started playing around at this new pond I found a few weeks ago and I was throwing a little 1/32 ounce jig that my buddy or at Patriot Jigs tied up. Just a little tiny hornet, little bitty skirt. But it was actually perfect for it to get in between the spaces of all the cover. So it was falling so slowly and I was casting between the open bits of all the heavy structure and cover over there, but it was floating it through those little open patches, but it was so light in movement and then in that water, it was floating perfectly between and they were just smashing it. And I was like, I would usually avoid this kind of area when I'm fishing. Especially if I'm fishing BFS. If I'm fishing normal bait caster equipment, then I'm like, whatever, I'll just rip it through. I'll burn it through.
Sure, yeah.
But BFS, I'm like, nah, it has to be like completely open or I'm not even going to try it.
Yep.
But I learned something from there, that moment. And actually ended up being a really good day on the water for me. And I was like, wow, because they were all just hiding right there, right beneath my feet. And like I was reviewing my own footage and I'm bending over to pick up a bass I had just caught. And as I was doing that, all these fish were fleeing from the bank of where I was, and they weren't just little fries or anything. They were like actual size fish. I was like, what's going on over here? And we've been getting a lot of rain. I'd mentioned that to you the other day.
Yeah. So
it's been changing a lot because usually that area wouldn't have that much water right there and have that much structure. But because it's just been kind of over raining and flooding a little bit, it was about, half a foot of water coming inland right there where it wouldn't normally be. But all those fish are pushing in.
They get curious. Yeah, exactly.
So it was really fun.
That's awesome.
It wasn't a good time if I did get stuck on something, but I didn't lose any jigs. So it was actually a pretty good deal.
And it's tough. You primarily fish from the bank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. Bank fishing is like, you're just going to lose more baits, bank fishing. It's just the nature of the beast. So like bank anglers, you guys, you're the real ones. Because like I'll be in my boat and I got hung up on a lie down that was up in this one shallow off of this one shallow point where I was fishing, and I'm like, oh man, I got snagged over here. Just motor over, get on the opposite side of it, pop it loose. But you make up a really good point though about the weight and the fall rate. And because it's so much lighter, when it does make contact with stuff, it's so much less likely to actually get hung up. Like when you're getting hung up, it's more because like, that tungsten was a little too sensitive and maybe I thought that stick or that tree stump, whatever, was a bite and I set the hook into it, something like that. But I find that like that lighter, and also like when you're fishing like mucky bottoms too. I actually, in the YouTube video I just dropped, I was talking about that, how I'm throwing these really, really light jigs and they're getting down to the bottom, but they're not getting like stuck in there. I'm able to kind of bounce it along the muck or like stroke it or bring it way back up and let it flutter back down. While we're talking about different presentations and baits, what are some of your favorites? Like the ones you rely on to get it done. And also like the ones where that's just the vibe right now. What do you think?
I will always go to a Texas rig crawl. And that's with any size, whether it be a Zoom speed crawl, which is my go-to confidence bait when fishing traditional bait caster. But for BFS, even the same thing. It's like I will actually get them from Daiso. Have you ever heard of Daiso, the Japanese dollar store?
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Okay,
really?
So
they sell those.
They have a little fishing section. So I'm not going to gatekeep this information. I'm not that kind of person. So if anyone's listening and you guys have a Daiso next to you, go check it out. They have a nice little camping and fishing section. It's really inexpensive. The prices have gone up over time. It used to be like $1.25 for everything.
Yep.
But now it's still sub $10. And this is for fishing products from Japan.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
They have these little 1.5 inch, 2 inch craws that I buy. And I slap that on a little 1/0 EWG and with a 1/16 ounce weight, or maybe one a little lower. And I just fish it like I basically mimic what I do when a traditional bait caster, just BFS. I just go smaller, and it works, you know. And that, or just like I'll take a 3-inch stick bait and fish it the same way.
Yeah.
Another favorite of mine is just a little underspin jig, 1/16 ounce with a Z-Man, little fishy. What is it called? I can't remember it right now, but it's just a little baby shad. I think it is the shads, actually.
Gotcha.
Shad fries.
With a Z. Yeah.
Yeah. Shad fries. That's what it is.
Okay.
Those are my go-to all the time. And here lately, I've been really fishing Patriot jigs, little hand-tied jigs. So he's a buddy of mine, and then I'm pairing it up with trailers made by another buddy, Land of Baits. And I haven't been able to get off them for like 2 weeks now because they're just straight catching fish for me. And I'm like, well, why change it? If that's what they're going for, and it's that fall rate and how it presents itself, it just makes them go crazy. Because I've caught from the smallest tiny bluegill all the way up to that 3-pound bass I caught last weekend. On the same lure. And I was like, that's insane. And that's what I love about BFS so much, because you can go one day and catch 5 different species of all different sizes and not even change your lure one time.
It's crazy. You know what I mean? It is nuts.
And sometimes, and I know nothing about tournament angling or anything like that. I watch it from now and again, and I watch videos online, you know. And I see all these boats with a million different rod setups on there, and I'm like, that's kind of crazy, but I get it. You got to figure out what they're looking for and what they want to buy. But I've just never experienced having to do that, because I'm like, well, this one and done for me works, you know. I'll get anything with this. And that's also because I fish for fun and fish in a pond or a smaller lake. But at the same time, I was like, I wonder what it would be like to have like a BFS style tournament, whether it be bank or kayak or on a boat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, and it's interesting. Like, I think you don't see a lot of the BFS attention in the tournament world a whole lot, because maybe they're not trying to sell those baits. Like, it's not part of their contract. And I've always heard this when it comes to tournament fishing, that some of these guys will say, oh yeah, I caught them on this. But that doesn't necessarily, like, we've always heard that fishermen are the biggest liars. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that that's actually true. You know, I mean, so maybe some of these guys do have some ultralight presentations that they're throwing out there. And I mean, tournament anglers, just saying, if you were to start throwing stuff that's ultralight on BFS gear, most people wouldn't know that you're throwing ultralight stuff, because you'd have a bait caster in your hand versus having a spinning rod all day. You know what I mean? And maybe giving away that you were finessing them a little bit more. Like, one of my favorite presentations is like a 3/16 or lighter bladed jig. I love these ultralight bladed jigs, like the Pig Jigs ones, the HH Customs I like. Jackal is what kind of started that love affair with me. I mean, I love Jackal, but it's like, you can power fish with these super subtle presentations, or not even subtle in the sense of action, subtle in the sense of size. You know, it's just bananas to me. And, you know, I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe there's tournament anglers out there that are just cashing checks left and right, and that's their big secret. I'll get an anonymous email now. Watch. It's gonna be like,
it could be. Who knows? Again, I don't keep up with it enough, but
yeah. Oh, of course.
A lot of what I watch is always just people throwing traditional bait casters, and that's great. And whatever floats your boat and whatever works for you. But I would love to get more attention on the BFS, and just so that more can be created.
Yeah,
you know.
I agree.
And I know there's a lot of things behind the scenes in the works that's going on, and it's going to continue exploding at the rate it is now.
Yep.
But just seeing more and more people pick it up is great. And another thing I haven't seen is actually a lot of women picking it up. I actually haven't seen another woman fish BFS online at all. And I've been trying, but I haven't seen one. I
think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, now that I think about it, I can't think of anybody else out there, any other women that fish a BFS. You're a pioneer. You're a pioneer, Kat.
You know, and that's part of the reason why I really got into what I'm doing is, yes, I loved watching my favorite creators online, but I sat and thought about it. I was like, you know, but they're all men. there's not a lot of big female creators out there.
Definitely talk about that. Yes, you're right. It is this whole thing is male dominated like crazy. We look at our analytics and I think we have a good share of women listeners, but like it's still, I think 92% of our audience is men. It's crazy, you know?
It is. And it's a tough world out there, too.
It is. Yeah.
Because especially as someone who presents herself like myself, you know, I get along with all the women online. I have a lot of women that I follow and support, and they support me, too. And it's great because, I don't know, we have this little thing going on. You get this little girl gang going, and it's just a bunch of fun.
Yeah.
You know, like we can relate on so many different levels on top of just fishing. And it's so awesome. But I grew up with 2 older brothers, so I can do the same thing with guys too.
Exactly.
So they've been bullying me since childhood, so I know how to deal with dudes.
So I'm interested now that we're talking about this. I think it was BASS that started I don't want to say like a women's league. I think it's called like Bass Her or Bass for Her or something like that. Like, what's your take on that?
I think it's awesome. I mean, if it's something that the women spoke up and wanted to do, that's great.
Yep.
You know, one thing I'm not okay with is people, and I say people like it's people like men pushing stuff for women and speaking on behalf of women.
Yes.
That's something that I'm not cool with. But of course, I'm all for women coming together and building some sort of coalition and community together and grow together, because we get so much hate sometimes online. And it's like sometimes I'll post some videos and I caught the fish. I obviously landed the fish, but there's a guy in there that's going to say, you did blah, blah, blah wrong. And I'm just like, but the point was I caught it. I'm holding the fish in my hand, you know? And I had the question, like, would you say that to another guy on his video?
The short answer, yes, he would. You know why? Because the dude lives in his mom's basement, has no freaking life. Like, it's true. He would. Like, men are stupid creatures and we say stupid things, but we'll say stupid things to everybody. You know what I mean?
And sometimes I know, like, it's not just myself that goes through this and talking to other creators. And we're just like, what is the deal here? Like, is it just a stupid person, or is it just someone who, for some reason, hates women anglers? Because what's up with that?
Yeah.
And it's either like, I'm a woman and I don't belong in this industry, or I'm not woman enough to consider myself a woman from the perspective of everyone on the outside, because everyone knows your life from 10 seconds of video, you know? And I'm like, you don't even understand who I am. I'm like, I may have short hair, but you know what? I hate touching bait. And I get grossed out by like the tiniest things.
Yep.
You wouldn't think it by looking at me, because people make their assumptions, but I make my girls bait my stuff for me when I'm fishing out in California, because they're using, cut bait and stuff like that. I'm ew, can you please just... Can you do it for me? Because I really don't want to. Like, I use lures, bro. And these are girls that appear 10,000 times more feminine than me. And you just wouldn't believe what's on the other side of the camera when you're watching, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to throw anyone out there, but it's just like you see them on camera and they're like, makeup all done, hair's beautiful.
Sure.
And they're like the most feminine looking women. And they're just like, I'm like, dude, y'all are hardcore. Like, what the hell?
Yep.
Did you just eat from the bag of chips after you just cut bait? Like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, nah, it could not be me. I'm touching fake stuff all day long, guys. Like, I have my nails done and everything. I'm like, I don't know about that.
You're like, I'm just going to tie on a jig and, we'll make
basically.
it work. It'll be fine. These plastics are nice. They don't mess everything all up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it is. It's kind of nuts with people. Everybody's got their own little barometer. I started last year bringing folks out fishing, and I just bought the boat last summer, and the whole reason is because the part of fishing that I think is so amazing is the social connections that you can make. It's like we all have this interest. We all kind of do it our way. Fishing is unique because it's one part science, but it's also one part art.
Yes.
You get this weird sort of alchemy that happens there. And, so people can fish the way that they want to fish. They can target what they want to target. It's great. But when you get on the water, and you're fishing with other people, like I've fished out of kayaks for the last few years, and I've fished on the bank. I continue to fish on the bank. And the social element changes with that. But with a boat, you're working together. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you're in the same vessel. You can't say, hey, I'm going to go check out this cove over here or something and leave somebody off, doing their own thing. So I've been having a good time with it. And, it is funny how like there are some folks that I'll bring on the boat that haven't fished, and it will surprise me who will handle a fish. Cause I primarily don't use bait much at all unless I'm fishing with my dad. He'll always have a little styrofoam container of night crawlers on the boat. Always.
Yes.
Actually, he's gone to the point now where he fishes so much with me, he's gone and bought a nightcrawler farm. So,
I've seen those.
Yeah, it's just like styrofoam tub. And he's like, yeah, these things are in great shape. I can't believe it. But there was a couple of days where, like, have you ever got those friends that fish primarily with bait to switch over to using lures or try them?
Yes, actually.
Awesome.
I did have a couple of friends that I met online years, while back through Instagram and through our videos and everything. I've gone out to California twice now in the last year to hang out. And this time they came out to meet me in Texas.
Nice.
And they've actually never really used bait casters before.
Yep.
So I gave them a little crash course on a how-to the night before.
Yep.
And I wanted to introduce them to BFS, but the wind was killer. Like I was like, there's no way. I was like, you guys are just going to be frustrated. I'm going to be frustrated. This lure is not even going to go anywhere.
Yep.
The water was so choppy. But I managed to teach them how to use a bait caster and cast it out. Tied on a couple green pumpkin magic Senkos.
Yep.
And I was like, there's got to be something in here you catch with this. So actually, both of them caught within 10 minutes of us being there. And it was epic.
Awesome.
Like they've used lures before.
Yeah.
But they've never used lures and for bass. Way.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it was really something that it was fun to introduce them to, because from being from California, they haven't been exposed to largemouth as much. I know one of them has caught one before.
Yep.
But they're primarily fishing salt and, at the jetties and stuff.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like the culture for fishing is different. I've heard the Wolf of Walmart, Dave Urquhart, on the Whole Angler podcast, use the description of like, when I grew up fishing, it was you went to the pier, you paid however much for bait, and if you needed help, or you broke a rig, there was a guy there to replace it. Like you didn't need anything. You just went out there, you did it. It was great. And then that was it. And it's, California's got some really good largemouth fishing. Really does. And it's like its own separate scene. I cannot wait to go out west and fish out there. I'm really looking forward to it. That's a pretty big accomplishment, though, to take multiple people out and give them a crash course in bait casting reels and then go out with them. How many times are you just like, I made a mistake? Or were you like, did it go that well?
As far as teaching and showing them, I mean, it happens. I'm kind of cheating because in my nature, my professional job outside of fishing, I'm a trainer, I'm a manager. So I'm really used to working with people and having that patience in guiding people. So I just really, when it comes to fishing, I take that, I mold the way I teach and the way I train, just change the information of fishing, and we go from there. Yep. And, the best part is they were easy to teach. If people are easy to teach and coach, it makes it so much easier to go with the process. If they're difficult, then that's a whole different story. But I mean, it was success within 24 hours, and it was pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
And not only that, like I didn't teach the other two girls that we had with us how to fish with bait casters, but I had also a spinning rod too, just in case. We had a few of those in case bait casters just wasn't going to work for anyone that day. Jam.
Yeah, exactly.
If they were just birds nesting the whole time and just having a good time, we had backup.
There you go.
They've never fished at all, really. And I got them on bass too. And it was pretty awesome. I got 4 people on largemouth bass in an hour. And I was like, I can't believe I just did that. I was like, that is awesome. In a spot that's usually kind of tough to fish.
That's awesome. That's wicked cool.
So I was like, I don't know if the universe was just on my side today and helping me out to have a good time with everyone that came to visit. But I was pretty stoked about it. I didn't get much filming or fishing in, but I didn't care because I was just stoked that everyone had pictures with the fish that day and accomplish what they came here to do.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So let's talk content. A little bit. You're on I found you on Instagram. What's your primary platform?
Instagram, really. I've been trying to expand more back out to my TikTok and posting a YouTube Shorts a little more. And of course, Facebook, it's there as well. But I'm mostly on Instagram most of the time.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it when we first started, Instagram was just sort of the default. Like I had already been doing so much with Instagram for my business that I was like, yeah, that's just going to be the move. And I only last May or June started getting into YouTube, and that's just kind of been an adventure. That is a grind. It's crazy.
I've noticed, like, even just doing the shorts, I'm like, wow, what does it take to actually get this out to where anyone's watching? It's like, I know people watch YouTube Shorts, right? Like,
yeah,
I get it. People have their subscribers they love to watch. I was like, but how often are people reaching out and branching out to explore to find new people to watch on YouTube versus I feel like Instagram and TikTok's real in your face about so many different people, like for your For You page and your explorers. It's just throwing so many different content creators at you. So it's a bigger variety on those platforms than it is like YouTube.
No, that's awesome. You do have a couple of brands that you're working with. One of them you already mentioned was Jay's Inc. Fishing Lures.
Yes.
How did that relationship come to be?
Actually, again, it all goes back to BFS because I was looking for smaller hard baits, which at the time was really hard to find.
Yep.
And I hit him up one day. I was like, hey, and I don't even remember how I came across this page. It may have been like a group giveaways kind of situation. It's like follow these people to enter a giveaway. It could have been that, or I may have just found his video. I can't even remember. It's been almost 3 years now.
Oh, wow.
And,
all right.
And so I reached out to him. I was like, hey, are you able to find, just like the blanks that you find that you're painting now, but anything like downsize, smaller.
Yep.
And right around then it's whenever Temu or maybe it was AliExpress that had the little baby Garon knockoff.
Yep.
And I was like, these are awesome. And I was like, I at that point in time, I was like, I don't know if I could pay $30 for a lure that I'm probably going to lose. I couldn't invest in that. And I was like, well, maybe we try it out, see if I'll like it and see how well it works for me. But then, Jay was able to source out so many different small lures. And really, he's been keeping up with that. People have been really loving all the little things too.
Yep.
So that's where it started, our relationship. And it's just being able to pick my own design, or usually I'm like, hey, just surprise me. Because at this point, he knows what I like.
Yep. Yeah, that's always super convenient when they know like the forage, where you're fishing, the colors that you have, the most success with. That's a big deal. That's awesome, Kat. Now, how did the relationship with ARC come to be?
That one actually, Raw Fishing reached out to me on that one.
All right.
So we've been, talking back and forth for a few years now, and he reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in joining. And I like a lot of stuff he does, and a lot of the things I buy is based upon his recommendation because he really puts his research in.
Oh, he
he really knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
If there's going to be someone I trust for an answer when it comes to BFS, I'm going to go to him most of the time. Yep. And for him to reach out to me was a huge honor. And I was like, that's awesome. I would love to. Because this is someone, like I said, I was watching on YouTube all the time and just looking up to, and to have him reach out and be like, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? And it's actually a company I have a relationship with too.
Yeah.
In a way. So I'm not someone that's going to sit here and promote stuff just to promote. I want to have confidence in the product before I put my name associated with it.
Yep.
People ask all the time, like, why don't you do like TikTok shop? And I was like, no, because I'm not going to promote these, I'm sorry to say it, but garbage, cheap fishing products that I've never tried just to make money. That's not who I am, and it's not who I'll ever be. But my first crankbait bass was actually an ARC lipless crankbait.
That's awesome.
And I just remember specifically, and I don't think I would have ever remembered if it wasn't for the specific shape of the eye.
Yep.
And I just remember looking at it. Yeah, a very unique look. Yep. And I was like, that's really cool. The name has always stuck in my head ever since then because that was the first one I ever caught.
Yeah.
And for to be 4 years later reaching out to me, that it was really awesome.
It's kind of full circle that way. That's pretty cool.
100%. That's what I was saying. I was like, it's really special to me, and being able to jump in right at where it's starting to blow up with the BFS and be on that side of it was even more exciting for me.
That's awesome.
So
it's funny with ARC too, because like ARC has always kind of had this interesting role or interesting position with Jigs and Bigs, because my co-host Joe used to own a tackle shop. And he had, but previous to that shop, I had never even heard of ARC rods. And, he was like, oh, Bobby, you should come check these out. And I was like, I'm not looking to drop a whole ton of coin here or anything like that. But I bought like 3 of the Cobb series rods, like a jig rod, a spinning rod, and then like a medium action, like sort of a moving bait rod. And I freaking love those rods. In fact, my drop shot rod is still that Cobb 7.3. I think it's called the Fairy Wand, and it's a great rod. In fact, when I fish with Becca Yassine, that's the rod that, like, because she's at the point now where when we go and fish, she's like, I'm not bringing a damn thing. You've got plenty of stuff. I'm using your gear, and so she's like, yeah, this will do right here. I was like, all right, make it happen. She outfishes the hell out of me constantly, but what can you do?
She catches some big fish, man.
She does. She's a badass. She's
a great angler.
Yeah, she really is, and just an amazing human being in general. I'm really glad to be able to call her my friend. And but like those rods are out of this world. Sean the Fisherman did a whole lineup of invokers, and then Joe had a bunch of stuff, from the shop. Anyway, I mean, like he pretty much took the tackle shop. Now it's on his nice brand new Icon, which is ridiculous. But so he's doing his thing, and ARC has just always been one of those. And when it came to looking into BFS, going back into the BFS conversation, ARC was one of the names where I was just like, holy crap, this is a company that I'm like kind of familiar with. And then they released the Gravity, and I'm like, this is just such a nice freaking looking reel. But it was so new, I hadn't heard anything about it yet, so I kind of put it on the back burner. Have you used the Gravity BFS reel?
Oh, it's almost all I use exclusively right now.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Like I've tried so many different BFS reels in the past 3 years of being in it, and this is just the one I can't put down. And it's just the versatility of it, of going from 130 seconds and then all the way up to, I haven't gone beyond 1/16th yet, but I know it can handle more.
Yeah.
But I just kind of been in that little realm right there, but it's just effortless.
Yep.
And so buttery smooth. It can handle all of that. The biggest I've caught is 3 pounds on it so far. No issues.
Not bad at all.
Yeah. I've actually have the actual rod, the matching rod on pre-order right now. Should be shipping later this month, but I'm super excited to get that.
That's awesome. That is
Can't wait to get it and try it out. Like, and honestly, I want to get another reel and then a different rod. Like maybe I ordered the light one, but I'm thinking about getting another reel and just getting an ultralight. Yep. Just so I can just run my dual setup and just be good to go with that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I think that's a great move. It's interesting. I didn't realize that they didn't have a rod to match it yet. That was that new.
Yep, no it's that new. It's been on pre-order for a little bit now.
Yep.
But
good for them.
The reel definitely came out before.
Yep.
Way before the rod did.
Yeah, and it's got a great reputation. And it's funny too when I was talking with Thomas over at Pig Jigs, and we were throwing around. I said, obviously I'm going to need a reel to go with this rod. What do you think I should do? He's like, well, Nate is throwing a Corrado BFS, and there's a mod with the Corrado where people say it's overbraked, and I think you just remove a couple or you swap out the magnets for different ones or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I just don't want to buy a reel that I've got a mod to get it right. And I had a friend of mine who was like, he's like, this Tatula BF70 is insane. You've got to try it. So I tried it.
That's on my list.
I just bought one. And I have a video. It's the Lake St. Clair video. The last day we were there, it was Easter Sunday. 420, baby. 420. And myself and one of our jig heads, Todd Sefton, was on the boat with me. And it was kind of a grind. Like, it was a little bit nuts. And I had just caught like a 19.5-inch steelhead on a half-ounce swim jig with a 5-inch trailer on the back of it. Like, I could not believe I caught this fish. So I was already mind blown. I'm like, this is crazy. I've never caught a steelhead before in my life. So like, that's a great fish, you know? And I said, you know, we're starting to get toward the end of the day. I was like, I still had to get back and make Easter dinner. And I go, you know, I was like, well, let's wait for this boat to get out of the ramp. We'll kind of get closer to it, and I'll just kind of hang off of that area. We'll fish until he's out of the way, then we'll go ahead and motor in, and we'll be good to go. He's like, sounds good. I took this cast, and I broke my PB smallmouth on that ultralight rod with that the Daiwa, with the Tsuula. And it was a 4-pound, 2-ounce smallie. Absolute giant. Oof. It was so, and this was the first. Was it the first fish? It was the first fish I ever had on that combo. First one.
That's amazing.
It was ridiculous, Kat. It was ridiculous.
I would have been screaming. I know you were screaming.
Oh yeah, you
had to have been.
So I've been using these really, really nice mics when I'm out on the boat and I'm recording content. But I pushed them so hard that day. We were out for like 8 or 9 hours, and probably about 7.5, maybe even right about that 8-hour mark. They just died. It was during the clip, it was in the clip. It was just following that steelhead catch, and I heard them drop out. I was like, that's what it was. The batteries just died, and they lasted a long time. I can't complain. You know what I mean? That's a long time to push microphones and receivers and stuff. So I go and I'm like, so there's no audio there. So I had to record a voiceover for it. And I'm just like, there was so much swearing in this video. It was out of this world. It was insane. It was just great though. Unbelievable. I was like, what a way to break in a reel. You know?
That's way. But now you're going to feel it because you're like, damn, I have to work a little harder just to beat that or get that feeling back.
I know. I'm going to have to go back to Michigan.
It's a bittersweet feeling, really.
Yeah, you're right.
And, you know, talking about equipment dying, like last week, I went out for a short session and I was recording. And then I was like, oh no, I forgot the batteries in the car. It was about to die, and I just did not feel like going back to the car. I was like, it's getting dark. I'm just sick. One more cast over here. And on that last cast is when I hooked in to that 2.5 pounder, and it was the craziest fight. It's not the biggest bass I've ever caught, but not even the biggest bass on BFS. But my God, this one was just wired up, and it was going through all the cover and the weeds, and my light rod, my Surinoya Dragon light, it was just like bent in half, and the drag is screaming on my gravity. And I was just like, oh my God. And I'm just thinking in my head, I just really hope this line doesn't pop right now because I don't even know what to do. I managed to get it in.
Yeah.
But I was like, of course my camera died right before that.
Always the way.
Like nothing else was on. I was like, okay, cool. Like I had the picture. That's cool. But like nothing else was on.
That's awesome though. Cause it's like, you know, and when you are out there making content, the shit like that just happens. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's the way it is for everybody. Like I spent 20 years working in television, and people are like, the stuff you don't see that is on the cutting room, on the editing room floor is wild. You know, it's absolutely bananas. And that's just the way that it works. It's something about like when there's a camera and microphones, shit goes haywire. It's crazy.
I believe it. It's happened to me more than once. What
is your PB? Just in general. I usually don't ask this question, but I'm curious.
In general, it's about right under 5 pounds.
Nice.
For bass.
Yep.
I've caught some catfish a little bit bigger than that. I don't count them in the realm of PBs, but for bass, it's right under 5. And I caught that one in Texas. Actually.
That's awesome. Nice. That's badass. Was it BFS?
It wasn't BFS.
Oh, all right. Okay. It's wild. There's just, I don't know. It's something about when you're fishing light tackle. It's just kind of a baller move, you know?
It feels more accomplishment.
It really does.
Like for me, like.
Yeah. You know, like it could, and it's crazy. Like I mentioned that brown trout a little bit earlier. That day I was going out specifically to fish for the scavenger hunt, and it was probably the second week of April, and I'm out and I'm just pedaling around in my kayak doing my thing, and I get, I'm catching a bunch of like dink bass, and I had a bass in the scavenger hunt. I didn't need another one, and I cast up way up shallow over by this dock, and I'm retrieving this bait, and this fish hit so hard and caused such a disturbance at the surface. I'm like, this is a giant. So I'm trying to fight it. And I just played him like an asshole. Like I totally just, I didn't work this fish at all. And he broke me off. So I'm like, all right, okay, let's go ahead. We'll regroup. So I retie and I make a few more casts, hoping that maybe I'll be able to get a bite. Of course I didn't, maybe if I had taken a couple hours and then come back, perhaps, who knows? So I go about I make the route that I was following this bank over, and I start coming back around, and there's this big laydown that comes out kind of out of nowhere. And as I'm coming back, I throw into this one spot, and again, it gets hit like a freight train. And this was that brown trout. Like this was in a little bit like closer to deeper water. And at that moment, I was just like, all right, don't do what you did like, an hour ago. Go easy and work this fish. I adjusted my drag for it, finally got him into the net. And it was just like, you talk about an accomplishment. Like after losing a giant and then getting another giant in there, it's just redeeming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And that's another thing. Like, I don't think people realize when they're watching my content too, that I am doing bait finesse. Like, no, I can't horse this fish in.
Yeah. You've got to be.
Sometimes it's like, why are you taking so long to bring it to the bank? Or why are you fighting it so hard? Like, just reel it in. It's like, you can't do that with DFS. Like, you're going to snap delicate. That line. Yep. And that's where the finesse comes in, right? You have to finesse this fish.
Absolutely.
You've got to really be patient on working it. And I've never really had a fight here in Oklahoma or down in Texas too long on a fish. I've been fortunate that they've been hitting it rather close to the bank and not too far out. Because, when I go out to California and I'm fishing, I'm like, my arms are tired, dude. Like,
oh, yeah.
I'm like, this is a different game.
Yeah.
And I've never been the type to be the comparison of salt versus inland or bass fishermen versus salt fishermen. Like, I see those battles in the comments. Some of you guys just calm down. Like, let's all be happy we're fishing and we all like doing it, but it is a different world, 100%.
Those are those same folks in the comments that are just like, oh, well, you did this wrong or whatever. It's the same group of people.
Yeah.
Trolls,
Yeah, I'm like, what in the world?
So this is an odd question, but so there's two things that are going on. Like I said, I love the social element of fishing, but I'm also kind of like a little bit of a foodie, and I'm creating a little journal of places that are recommended by guests. So like typically what I'll do is I'll go out super early, like in the summer, get out before the sun's up, be at the water for sunup, fish until about like 11 a.m. or noon, and then go and grab like either a late breakfast or lunch. And I'm not a chain restaurant kind of guy. What's the mom and pop spot where you're like, yes, I'm going to go celebrate a great day on the water, or I'm going to go punish my body for doing something boneheaded?
Well, I'm from Oklahoma and I'm from this little small town. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called Muskogee, Oklahoma.
I have heard of it.
You've heard of it?
I have heard of it.
Is it from Merle Haggard's song "Okie for Muskogee"?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
So yeah, that's where I am. A little humble town, population maybe 44,000. So I was born and raised here. Like I said, I've moved out and done everything. I came back to take care of my pops, so that's why I'm back here again. Cool. But there's a lot of local here, and there's a lot of places that I was kind of happy to move back here. I was like, man, I really haven't been able to have this in so long because I've been in big cities for the past few years. But the local Chinese spot, love it. It's called China King.
Yep.
It's a buffet.
Oh my God.
I will always say it's the best Chinese buffet ever.
Yeah.
And people are like, you're just biased. I'm like, no, dude. Like, I will try and find a good Chinese buffet in other towns. Yep. And I just haven't been able to find something that feels like that and tastes like that to me.
What's your go-to item at that buffet? Like the one that you're like, I gotta get this.
They have these little cream cheese mushrooms, like little mushroom caps.
Oh, really?
I'm a huge fan of mushrooms, and they put this cream cheese in there and they kind of just broil it, and it's freaking awesome. And if you go on the weekend, then they have these little shrimp that they like kind of fry in butter, but I think there's like maybe some cornstarch on the outside that gives it a little bit of a crisp.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, that was some rice, and then you got to get some of their egg drop soup.
Hell yeah!
But everything is good there. There's nothing there I don't like.
Yeah,
which is a problem. I've been trying to cut back. I've been going on a diet, and I'm like, dude, but the desire to go in and just slam the Chinese buffet is so real.
And sometimes you've earned it. Like, when you break
100%.
and you're like, yeah, we got a PB today, or we got so-and-so on, it's like sometimes you earned it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
that. There's several spots here in town that are great. There's a pizza place called Pisano's.
Yep.
That has the best calzones ever.
Oh, man.
And then they have this pizza called Alpine Pizza. Have you ever heard of Alpine Pizza?
I've never heard of Alpine Pizza, and I am I'm intrigued.
It's some sort of white sauce. It's kind of salty and tangy at the same time.
Really?
And it's just a white pizza. And the sauce is white, and it's just covered in cheese. There's no toppings.
Huh.
And I've never seen it anywhere else. I think there was another place in town back in the day that also had it.
Yeah.
But outside of Muskogee, I've never heard of Alpine Pizza before.
Huh.
And I as I grew up, I started asking people, they're like, what is that? And I'm like, is that not a thing? I was like, is that just a local thing that someone came up with? Like, I can't figure it out. But I think maybe now because I'm older, I'm like, it's a little too salty for me now. But I remember it smacking back. It's still good.
Yeah.
But I have to just have that one slice and that's it. I can't do more than one.
No, that makes sense.
But it's very different, but it's awesome.
There is one of our listeners is a dare I say a pizzaman. We tried to organize doing an event, a Jigs and Bigs pizza party, and he's one of the jig heads. So like when we record the show, there's a live stream that's exclusive just to the Patreon, and they're able to kind of interject and put commentary and everything. And he shared a bit of information, and he goes, we have this pizza. This one guy will order. He'll order a buffalo chicken pizza, add onions, add pineapple. And I guess around the kitchen, all the guys that work there refer to this as
buffalo nonsense.
And Joe and myself are surprisingly open-minded. A lot of people expect me, Bobby roast beef, Italian-American background, like, no, pizza never has pineapple, whatever. I got to tell you, I have ordered the buffalo nonsense in 3 states so far for different groups of people, and multiple times, even my family. It's delightful. What's your take on pineapple on pizza?
I can't do it.
You can't do it, really?
No, okay. I'm not big on the mixing of savory and sweet.
Oh,
so that just kind of goes across the board. Like every once in a while, I'll be all right with that, but usually I'm like savory, and I don't even like sweets that much either.
Yeah, okay.
Which is a blessing for me. I'm like, thank God, I like enough of the salty stuff to be bad for my health, so I don't need to add diabetes on top of it.
See, I like it all. That's the problem. And I feel like it shows. I like it all. That's just the way it is.
I love food. I love your concept of, branching into being a foodie and at the same time, because, if I'm not talking about fishing, I feel like I'm talking about food.
100%.
Probably.
Yeah.
If I'm not watching a fishing reel, it's either food, fishing, or dogs. I think that's what my algorithm is most of the time.
That is a great recipe right there. All 3 of those items for social content, because dog videos, the best. The best.
100%. It'll make your day.
How comfortable are you talking fish whistle activities and fish whistle procedures?
I mean, not a lot of people know about it.
A lot of people are missing the boat.
They are. But I mean, also, I don't really feel like the people I'm concerned about are really going to tune in
listen
either.
Yeah,
I'm like, you probably won't sit there and talk about this.
Well, and our shows are a hefty listen. It's a big ask to get people to sit down and listen to 3 hours of me just ba 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 ba. You know what I mean? It's a big ask. So when people are like, "Oh yeah, I missed that," I'm like, that's probably for the best.
It's probably because it was somewhere in the middle of the recording and you were not paying attention at that specific section.
That's exactly what
I get that.
I get that. What is your preferred protocol for your fish whistle? Are you more of like a, you're going to take a pre-roll to celebrate? Are you more like of a flour purist? Are you all about the Benjamin? Or are you more into like have an edible before we send it, and then when it kicks, and that's when it gets fun?
It depends on where I'm at.
I love that answer,
Bobby. It just depends, like, and who I'm with.
Yep.
Like if I'm out in California, anything goes there. I'm like, whatever you got, let's go.
Gas mask.
Send it, because nobody knows. Nobody cares.
It's true.
Everyone's so chilled. I'm like, I love it. Because, growing up in Oklahoma, everyone's just just tight asses everywhere. I guess I have to say it because everyone's just all there.
I thought Oklahoma had recreational and medical.
It's medical still right now.
Oh, it's just medical in Oklahoma. Medical.
But even then, we're like, you freaking pothead all the time. It's like, this place is going downhill. There's dispensaries on every street. And I'm like, but you'd rather have old Bob down the street drinking on his front lawn acting out again. You're cool with that.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of blows my mind. But it's Oklahoma. It's still, you know, super red state in a lot of aspects. So going out to California where everyone's just chill and nobody cares what someone else is doing.
Oh, for sure.
It's just so fun.
That's kind of how it is in Massachusetts. Like rec and medical are A-OK. I realize like Michigan's cannabis game is fucking amazing.
Really?
Oh my God, it's fantastic. Let alone the fishing is great. And some of the nicest people I've met from Michigan, like super nice. Ohio's got some good stuff going. I never thought I'd say that about Ohio. But yeah, Massachusetts is pretty chill. And I'm surprised because so one of my wife and I were both really big fans of this one band that's from Oklahoma City. The Flaming Lips. You're probably way too young to have ever heard of them.
I know who they are.
Oh, you do?
Who they are.
Okay,
I do.
So Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips has a cannabis brand, a brand of edibles called Feed Your Brain. And they're not yet available in Massachusetts. And so my wife and I are like, we usually see them once or twice a year, usually. And I'm like, you know what? One of these times we should just go see them in their hometown. Let's go to Oklahoma City and just send it. And she's like, and we can stock up on the Feed Your Brain meds. I'm like, absolutely right. We
priorities.
Can. Yeah. I'm like, you've got your head together, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's a great idea. And I'm like, and we'll drive and I'll take the boat and everything. So when this happens, it's going to be you, me, and Bait and Bougie on the boat, BFS fishing, ripped off our faces, and it'll be fantastic.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm 100% down. Yeah. You know, I've actually never fished from a boat aside from 2 charters I've been on.
Really?
Really. So
it is
not even inland boat experience. None. I've never been.
It is just being on the water is a game changer. 100%. Regardless of what it is, you can take an old door and put pool noodles around it and get off the bank that way. And like, it will 100% be a game changer. It's just, it's.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been dying to do it. I've been really, really wanting to try it out. I just don't own anyone really. Cause moving out of Oklahoma.
Yep.
And a lot of people I knew in my hometown, you know, we all dispersed. Nobody really stayed here.
Oh yeah. Small town living is like that a lot of the time. People get out and then they're very, very rarely do they come back. And if they do,
there's a reason.
You know?
Yeah. Oh. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but mostly bad.
No, that's 100% true. Kat, this is absolutely fantastic. I need 2 stories from you before we wrap up. I need a story where like, it's like that story where if you were at an event somewhere and somebody saw you and they were like, hey, yeah, so-and-so told me that you fish. The story you would lead with, like you're most proud of, you know, it might be a PB. It might be where something went to hell and like you were able to kind of get back, you know, save the day type thing.
Yeah.
But then the other story I need is where it was the biggest type moment where the shit it fell apart.
I got one for the first one.
That's the easy
about
one.
The second
one.
Yeah,
take a minute. Take a minute if you need to. It's okay.
Just thinking.
Yeah. It's with the second story, it's tough because most anglers, if they've been doing this for a while, have volumes of encyclopedias worth of when it's gone bad, you know? And, you know, as always, anytime we have a guest that's back on the show, if they have another story that they want to share, they can jump on and share because we love these.
I'm really trying to think because, you know, I only fish from the bank and any bad days I've had on the water would have been just because my equipment malfunctioned.
Yeah.
Like my rod, you know, but never anything really even terrible.
Bank fishing, like you've never like slipped and fell in?
Not recently. Like
Not recently.
Not within the last few years. That's like stuff I did.
Yeah.
I try to be pretty careful. I'm just trying to think of a really bad fishing day, and nothing is coming to light, but plenty from when I was a kid. I was like, damn, like I followed in water all the time. I try to really, really be careful now. I think the worst things that's happened nowadays was stepping in a damn ant pile. That shit sucks.
Depending
especially
on
when
the
you're
ants,
allergic.
Yeah.
There was fire ants.
Oh, shit.
I was like, fuck me, bro. I was like, this is fucking terrible. I don't want to fucking fish anymore. Like, this sucks. And they're like stuck in your socks and like all that bullshit. And I'm like, dude, this is terrible. And my cousin, he's a couple of years older than me, and he's the same cousin I used to fish with back in the day with my uncle and my dad. And it's just his job to make fun of me and laugh at me. Like, that's just all he knows to do. And he's just sitting there laughing at me. And I'm like, come on, asshole. Like, this hurts. Like, it's not even fucking funny, dude.
Give me a break here. Come on.
But he's the one pretending to push me in the water and stuff all the time.
Of course.
But bad days, I haven't had any crazy accidents.
That's good.
I can't say the same for like my friends here recently. Like, one got a hook in her eyebrow and the other one got bit in the face by a bird.
A hook in the eyebrow? Oh my God.
I gotta send you that video later.
Oh my God, that's rough.
She was pulling, she was snagged on something.
Oh no.
And that hook came flying back out and got her right in the eyebrow.
What was it? What was the bait?
There was nothing on it. It was just a hook with that she had bait on it.
Just a single hook, and that was the weight of the hook. Wow.
It flew back. I don't know what she was stuck on. She was, fishing offshore or on like off the bank in California. So I think something took her bait and then she got snagged on something and then it came flying back when she tugged on it.
Damn. That's rough.
They've been joking. It's the same couple of girls too. And they were, so those two girls were present on the day of the whole eyebrow incident.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And then like, last weekend or so, they were both present at the same time when the other friend got bit in the face by a cormorant because they had gotten hooked up in their line, and they were trying, because the girls are always trying to take care of wildlife. They hate seeing them in pain, and they will do what they can to unhook because they love nature. They love taking care of everything. Even as fishermen, they're very respectful towards the fish. And that's the kind of people I want to associate with. Like, I've been seeing a lot of crazy stuff happening online. I'm like, let's have a little bit more respect for nature the reason why we even have the sport,
Yeah.
And
100% agree with that.
That's just how I view things. But they were trying to get this hook out, this poor cormorant. And I think it just got a little freaked out, and it just looked up and went for her right in the middle of the face. And thank God I missed her eyes.
I was going to say,
she's got some scarring underneath her eye and like on her lip.
Yep.
But they both, either situation, kept fishing afterwards. I mean, Joy went to the ER to get the hook out, but then came back out to fish. And I'm like, you were a trooper for real. Like, a lot of people would have hung it up after that.
That's a hard one to be like, I'm ripping this out. You know what I mean? Like, that's tough.
It was really in there. There was no self undoing on. I couldn't do it. I'd pass out. I'd definitely have to go to the doctor and get that done.
Now, have you ever had a hook, bury a hook in any way from any kind of a bait?
In my hands.
Oh,
so when I first started working with crankbaits, those trebles, I was like, shit. And the fish was still attached. And I was like, oh,
that's
shit,
a recipe for disaster, man.
I was freaking out.
I'm still gun shy about it. Like, there was a day where, so there's one of my good friends. He's also a content creator, Delirious Angler on Instagram. And, we had him on like the first year that we were on the show, that the show was going on, had him on, and he's got a background in like semi-pro football. He's a big guy, and we were fishing a spot not too far from me in his boat. And I just got a couple of lipless cranks from a guy who was starting to get into painting, and he actually did a really, really great job on these these lipless. And they were like a yellow perch, like a fire tiger-y kind of pattern. And it was like the day before I put brand new hooks on them. I'm like, oh, these are gonna be great. I can't wait. So I'm out ripping this thing around, and I'm throwing it on actually that Arc Cobb Series medium power spinning or casting rod, and I get bit by a good size yellow perch. Like, it was like a twin of the bait. It was crazy. Cannibalistic son of a bitch. Crazy. So I take this fish and I'm holding the line, and I go and I lip the fish, and I'm trying to take the hooks out, and it just gives one twitch. And as it falls, the hook just goes right down into my thumb. And so we're like, we're going to try the braid trick, because I don't want to leave. I'm like, I want it to, I just gotten on the water. We've been fishing for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, I'm not looking to leave, but we'll try this. So we do what any sane person would do, and we look it up on YouTube to see how to do the braid trick. So we get it all set up. We're sitting there, and I'm like, all right. He's like, so do you want me to count to 3 and pull, or do you want me to count to? And I was like, just do it. And he goes, 1, 2, pull. I moved. Like, my whole 300-pound body lunged forward. I was like, it was so far in there. I got to the ER. I called my sister is an ER PA. And
Okay.
I called her, and I was like, hey, look, I got in a situation. Do you think this is something urgent care can handle? And then she's like, probably not. They're probably going to send you to the ER. And she's like, I'm not working today. And if I had the stuff to do it at home, I'd just do it here. I was like, okay. So she's like, go on in, mention this person. They'll get you right in. I was like, great. So I get in there. And this ER, they have like a student program. So there's a bunch of students in there with the staff, and there's some forms that I have to fill out, but I can't write because I have a hook buried in my dominant hand, And I'm like, so they're like, okay, we're going to do this. And, the girl that's filling out the paperwork, she says, do you mind if I watch him do this? Because I haven't seen anybody come in with this specific injury. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And I know better. My hand is so numb with lidocaine. Like, you could close like a garage door on it from the top, like just slam it, and I wouldn't know it. It was just ridiculous. But I know not to look. I know it's going to go downhill. The grimacing on her face as this doctor was trying to remove this hook. And when I did turn and look at him after it was removed, he had beads of sweat on his forehead because he had to work that hard to pull this hook out. I was like, you've got to be kidding me, man. What is wrong? So, yeah, it's brutal. That's why
terrifying.
I'm still gun shy. Like, I fish with treble hooks, and I'm like, you're getting the grips.
I think my next step is changing all my BFS hard baits to, the single inline.
Single hooks, barbless, so they just slip right out. You're like, there you go.
I'm like, I really just don't want to deal with that one day. I have health insurance, but I just don't want to have to go out of my way.
Yeah.
And I just know I'm too big of a pussy to be like everyone online will push the barb through and cut it. I'm like, no, dude, like I could never.
There's a certain
absolutely not
amount of tissue like I would be okay with doing that. That one instance was not the case because like I could see it through my nail. Like it was bad, Chad. It was so bad.
I'm cringing. Oh, no way.
So bad. So.
Oh man.
Shifting gears. So tell me the story that like you're most proud of. We'll start there.
Okay. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
So my friend from childhood, we've been friends since like 7th grade, reaches out to me early last year, was like, hey, would you want to come to my wedding? And I was like, well, yeah, I want to come to your wedding. Even though we haven't seen each other in forever. She was also like my tennis teammate, college roommate and everything at OU.
Yeah. So you guys go back.
Yeah, we just haven't seen each other since college. It's been a while, but we've just known each other for a long time. And really the only person I've kept up with from my hometown, from all of that.
Yep.
And she was like, cool, awesome, you'll love it. And she sent me the details and everything. And it was up there. The ceremony was at this big old nice Airbnb area at Grand Lake of the Cherokees, which is actually, that's a pretty big lake for us. For Bassmaster's been there.
Oh yeah,
and they fished on that lake, and I'm like, oh. And I'm thinking in my head before I even go, even see the setup. I'm like thinking, so at what point can I get around and try to fish up there because I want to check it out. I hear a lot of good things about this lake, and I get up there, and I find the spot to park, and I was like, this is such a random area. And then I learned that from the remote spot where you park, someone will come out to get you on a little golf cart and drive you in back. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're going. And this house is immaculate, beautiful, huge deck overlooking the lake.
Oh my God.
And then there's like a little dock attached to the house.
Yeah.
And you go out and they have a pontoon boat. They have jet skis. They had kayaks. They had a little, like the big old lily pad thing attached to the dock.
Oh yeah.
A trampoline attached to the dock that's floating. So that's like, that where everyone was staying was they rented out that whole area.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the whole time in my head, I was thinking, man, I know there's fish under that dock. And of course, my gear is in my car.
Of course.
But when I was going to not do anything about it, I was like, I don't want to be rude. This is her wedding, And we're talking, and she was the one who brings it up. The bride is the one who's like, "You gonna fish?" And I was like, "I mean, do you want me to? Like, it's your wedding." She was like, "I think you should at some point." But the day goes on, wedding festivities, all of that, the I do's, the eating, and she's the one that keeps begging me like, "You go get your fishing rods yet?" And I was like, "No, I haven't."
That's awesome.
I haven't, because it was such a far distance to my car.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, well, let me wait until the shuttle guy comes back around and takes me back that way. So I finally do, and I'm in like nicer clothes, and everyone at this point is like in their swimsuits, drinking, partying on that deck, having a fun time.
Sure.
And I was like, so it's like 30, 40 people over there. Music's going. Everyone's having a blast. It's starting to get just about evening time.
Yep. Oh,
and I'm in my head. I'm again right under that walkway of that dock right there. I know there's got to be something lurking. So I just had BFS gear with me.
Beautiful.
And I had this little twin tail grub with like a little 1/8 ounce tungsten head. And I tossed it under there. And I felt something, and I was like, I think that was a fish. I don't think that was like something I hung up on or brushed on.
Yep.
And I'm just like, do. I was like, well, let me cast right in that same spot again, but slow roll it a little more. And I started doing that. And then boom, it just fucking just chomps it. And I set that hook so hard. I was like, this one matters. Normally I don't set it that bad. Yeah. I'm not one of those big hook set kind of people, because with BFS, a lot of times they do it to themselves.
For sure.
With the action of the rod and everything. And so I'm yanking that thing and I'm reeling. I was like, fish on. And then everyone on the deck, and I'm talking like 30, 40 people, turn their head and they're all screaming and yelling and cheering my name. And I was like, this is so surreal. Like, I never thought in a million years I'd be catching a fish and having a huge group of people like shouting my name
for you. Yeah.
And cheering me on. And I grabbed this bass by the mouth, and it was a decent size. And I just held it over my head. And I was like, "For Derek and Bailey." And everyone's like, "Yeah."
That's so
and
awesome.
I shit you not, Bobby, my camera wasn't recording.
Oh, no.
I have never not hit record when I went to go record before. That was like the first time ever. But you know what?
Wild.
It's one of those things where I tell myself that moment was for myself and those people.
And them. Yeah, exactly. That's
it wasn't for anywhere else.
Yep.
And the whole time before I even went home to look, because I didn't even review it till way later in the night.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking in my head, I was like, that's one of those moments like that could be a viral video,
100%.
Catching a fish at a wedding with a crowd cheering you on. I was like, that could go viral. And come to find out, I didn't even have the footage. And I was like, well, that's okay, because everyone will always remember that.
It'll be that moment. Yeah.
And I will always remember that. And the bride and groom will always remember that. But it was such a cool moment. And that was just last July, too. And
really? That's so cool.
I was like, that is so badass. I was like, I could never do that again, probably. And this is someone who, I don't fish lakes very often. It's mostly, bigger ponds.
Yep.
Both private, HOA, public ponds. I've done all of them.
Yep.
But to catch a bass off the bank in a lake is a pretty big accomplishment, I think, for me. And it being a new one.
Being a new lake, and a lake that is big enough to get the attention of, Bassmaster and in these tournaments. And not only that, because of that attention, there's got to be a ton of pressure. It's like, that's awesome. Congrats to you. That's badass. That's a great story.
Coolest moment of my fishing life, I think. Probably
100%. Like when you put a fish, like there is nothing better than when you catch them and somebody gets to see it who doesn't normally experience that. Like
Yeah.
one of the places I like to fish a lot is it's a college campus, and there's like two ponds with a little creek that connects the two. And on the upper end of this pond, there's a walking trail, and it is busy. People are always walking this, whether it's students or just people that live in town. They're using the hell out of this trail. And I've caught some pretty big fish, and people have seen me pull big fish out of here, and they're like, oh my God, that's in there? And I'm like, yeah, that's in there. 100%.
It's cool. It's really cool to do that, you know, and
that is bad.
Of course, all of these people were actually from the New England area.
Oh, no kidding.
The groom's family is from the New England area.
That's awesome.
So, you know, everyone's got their accents, and it was mostly Italian also, now that I think about it. And so they're not really seeing a lot of this. They hear about Oklahoma and fishing and all that stuff, and they're experiencing Oklahoma for the first time right now. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's probably pretty dope for them to be in Oklahoma and see someone catch a largemouth bass right in front of them while they're having a good time.
While they're having, mixed drinks on the dock party or something. That's great. That's awesome.
So cool.
I freaking love that. Kat, that was just absolutely freaking awesome. Do me a favor. Give any shout outs to anybody that you're working with, want to give shout outs to before I go ahead, promote yourself and let people know where they can find you and your content.
Yeah, absolutely. Anywhere online, you can catch me at Hooked on Cat. Same username everywhere across the board, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Thinking about branching out more, but I haven't yet. But that's where I can be found primarily. Right now, of course, shout out to Arc Fishing. If you use code Hooked on Cat, you can get 10% off your entire purchase of regularly priced items. Same thing if you hit Jay's Ink Fishing Lures, so you can get 10% off your purchase if you mention my name. So there's that. And a couple of other people that I really want to shout out right now are Patriot Jigs and Land of Baits. Couple of guys are awesome that I work with, and they're my friends, and just throwing their stuff lately. I'm really big on supporting small business.
Yep.
You know, and supporting local and supporting your friends, you know. Of course, we're going to be out there buying all the big brands. We're always will be, but it is important to support the smaller people out there.
Exactly.
You know,
so they'll be the big brands of tomorrow, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And if their products are catching fish for me, then I'm going to sit there and promote it.
Hell yeah.
On top of course, you know, Bait Finesse Empire, #1 stop for anything bait finesse, in my opinion.
Facts. I love that. Kat, this is absolutely awesome. Do me a favor and send me a picture of you just holding either one or multiples to use for the artwork. And we'll use that. This is going to drop Monday night, probably about 8 or 9 Eastern. So a little bit earlier for you.
Sounds good.
It'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Good. I'm glad
I'd love to do it again one day.
Absolutely, for sure. And you know, the next time we do this, we'll aim to make it a collaboration, and we'll get on the water. We'll do some fishing. We'll do a YouTube video.
Yeah, let's do that.
I like that. I'm into
the
it.
idea. Sounds great.
Awesome.
A little fish whistle, a little bit of fishing, a little bit of shit talking.
Yes.
That's right up my alley.
You got it. It's happening. Game on.
All right.
I'm going to go tell Holly right now, hey, we're going to go see the Flaming Lips. Start looking at some tour dates. You have a good one, Kat. We'll see you next time, all right?
You too.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, grab that big one first, will ya? Bro, we killed it today.
Goddamn, he's a motherfucking beast. Shit, he got more fight now than when we hauled him in.
Watch it. Don't let him jump out of the tub. We lose him and it's over.
Relax, bitch. I got him. You get the scale ready. We're taking this one home, no doubt.
Hi there. Welcome to the Live Well, where we crack open a ramp beer and attempt to answer all of your burning questions.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Jigs and Bigs. It is the Live Well, the last segment of the show. And we have, again, like we're coming in strong. We have 2 questions that came in this week, regarding the Live Well segment. And I think actually both of them came in after I put the hotline number right on the Jigs and Bigs link tree so that it was really accessible, which is awesome. We've actually gotten calls from both of these folks before. For all I know, we could be programmed in their phones as a contact. They might have it on as like, betterhelp.com or some shit like that. That's our hotline that they, when things go wrong, that's what we are. We're your on the phone therapist. But let's go ahead. We'll dive into, this is another one from Eli Self was in the first segment of the live wall that we had put together. He sent over this message right here. We'll go ahead and play this.
Hey, I'd like to order a large pepperoni pizza. Just kidding. No, I've got a question for the live wall. So I know this depends on a lot of factors, weather, water condition, temperature, stuff like that. But I want to know if there's a general sequence of baits that you go through when you go out to the water, especially new water that you haven't fished before. Is there a certain, do you go square bill, jig, texture, something like that? Is there a sequence that you go through to one, cover water, two, and then just how you approach a new body of water, and if there's a sequence of baits? Have a great day. Bye.
So he wants to know about how we would approach sequencing our baits, our presentations on a new body of water. So what is it? What's the general rule? Mine is pretty easy. And honestly, this is something that I only recently started to do. And that was, when you're covering water, we're talking moving baits, I mean, we're talking moving baits primarily. So I'm not going to throw, a standard jig or a Ned rig or something to cover water. I'm going to have those as a follow-up bait. So I usually have all that stuff tied on anyway. Now, as far as covering water, what I'll do is I'll say this. Sometimes there is room for intuition, but generally speaking, I like to start with the most obnoxious presentation that I can get away with. So what I'll do is a lot of times that'll be a bladed jig. It could be a spinnerbait. There's just some pretty decent vibration with a spinnerbait. But a bladed jig or a crankbait is going to be your most really, if we're talking just covering water, I'm probably going to start with a bladed jig or a lipless, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
One of those two, because I'll be able to just chuck and wind, and cover more area and determine all I'm really looking for is a follow or a bite. Because from there, I can figure that can tell me so much. So I'll start with the most obnoxious, and then I'll just try to step it down in different, as far as making it more subtle,
Right.
I might go to I might work from there to going through. So if the vibration is too much, I might then throw a swim jig, where I have the action of the trailer behind it, but I also have that secondary action of the skirt. And if that's not getting any attention or follows or any taps or anything, I then will go to something more downsized, like a finesse swim bait. And then if genuinely, if that's not doing anything, by that point, I'm definitely moving spots. And as I'm doing this, I'm moving anyway. So I'm just looking for something. But when I give myself 30 minutes of throwing a bladed jig and I've covered a whole bank and I haven't had so much as a tap, that's when I'll make the move. Something like that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different when you know a body of water. Because I won't necessarily always start with the most obnoxious thing. I'll kind of use past history and current conditions to make a decision on where I should start.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot. But I would say primarily for me, I start with the most obnoxious and I start to work down. Because then I can eliminate. Is a vibration a thing? Maybe not,
Right. Yeah, I guess for me, it's a little bit different. So one thing is that I don't base anything off of dates or anything like that. It's all kind of, just because everything's so different around here in New England. It could be 70 one day, 40 the other. So I kind of go by water temps, weather. stuff like that. But new body of waters, one thing I always do is I always check out the mapping beforehand. If I know I'm going to a body of water, I always try to check out the mapping, the layouts, whether it's Navionics, on my iPad or whatever, or even if I go outside on the boat and bring it up on my Lake Master. That's probably the first thing I kind of do. Then from there, I'm kind of the same way. I try to find some kind of search bait. Typically for me, it's, kind of similar to Bobby's. I might throw like a square bill or a bladed jig, or even, a spinner bait. If it's primarily a smallmouth fishery, I might do something a little bit different, either a smaller crankbait, or I might even like grab a swim bait in the aspect of like a soft swim bait, like a big Joshy, something like that. If I want a little bit of noise, a little bit of flash on that, I'll throw on a small underspin, and just kind of crank that around, look at my live scope, my electronics, see if I'm getting follows, stuff like that. But yeah, for when it comes, I don't like, because of where we are in New England, I don't typically use, I can't sit there and be like, oh, today's May 1st. I definitely got to use this at this body of water because this is what's happening. No.
Yeah.
Because look at the spawns for us, the spawn's happening much later than it did, not much later, but a couple weeks later than it did last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so I can't go off that. And again, new body of water, first I do is I break it down electronically, the night before or days before or whatever. And then I'll pick spots on the maps. I'll mark them on my Lake Master. I'll go to those first. If I have no luck, I might take an hour and just kind of side scan it, try to find some structure, and then go from there.
Yeah. I think that, like, number one, one of the most important things, I think, when it comes to selecting a bait is your current conditions. Yep. What are you dealing with? What do you have for cloud cover? What do you have for wind? What do you have? All that stuff, current conditions, and water, not just temp, but clarity. Yep. Like what's the visibility like? I find that I will throw something that is like some sort of a soft plastic, in better visibility than I will like in murky water or heavily stained water or just straight up chocolate milk. Like it could be dead calm, and sunny skies. But if that water is essentially chocolate milk, like you might have to throw a rattle trap or a vibrating jig in order to get the detection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's sort of a fine line you have to walk and determine, like, okay, so what are the conditions telling me and what is logical? What should I do here?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, Eli. That's a good question. It's a tricky question because a lot of people
tricky. It is tricky.
It really is. It is a tricky question, but yeah,
it's good because so many people are so different on their approach to this. It's not like a standard thing where everyone does the same thing. Like my approach is going to be different from yours, or it's going to be different from Eli's. It's which is good.
And I will even do the same thing with like a like topwater, various topwaters. Like, I'm probably always going to start with a buzzbait, like the most obnoxious. You know what I mean? Yep. And again, like taking into consideration, like even if it is a new body of water, that water clarity tip is a big deal. Like if it's super clear and you can see for like 6 to 8 feet, 10 feet, probably not a great idea to throw a hard bait.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like maybe throwing a fluke is a better move, or, some type of a soft plastic swim bait of sorts,
Yep.
Just something, keep that in mind. But everybody's going to come up with their own stuff, which may or may not work for them, and also like their favorite comfort zones.
Yep.
But I think the important thing with what Eli said was like searching new water. We're not talking about throwing wackies, and finding fish.
No.
No way.
That's that. Will you do it? Sure.
You'll land on some. Yeah, you will.
But it's going to take a minute. It's like the biggest thing in a new body of water is covering that body of water.
Yep.
Especially if you're not like someone like Bobby, you might not be running electronics. He's using those lipless, those square bills that that's his way of finding structure and rock and boulders and, you know, things like that. So if he's sitting there, you know, with a wacky worm taking, you know, 2.5 minutes for each cast versus 20 seconds, that adds up. And that's much less water you're covering in whatever time frame you have to fish that day.
I love this. John Hagen's comments. He says, Jigs and Biggs hotline is on speed dial and listed as an emergency contact. I love that. And then he chimes in. He says, I like to stop and survey the area before I cast. I agree.
Yep.
Like, I think that's a huge deal. And you know what really paid off was in St. Clair. When Todd and I were up there, we had been spending weeks looking at, granted, we were looking at structure that we were just like, it just didn't make sense how far away it was from where we were launching, you know, and we're just like, oh yeah, we'll go over here. That's no problem. That can't be that far. Fuck that. That was far. You know what I mean? And so like, when we were looking at the stuff that we did, we're like, okay, well, this kind of makes sense. It's like this little flat here, but we found these humps and we found a few, you know, pieces of structure that stuck out to us that were pretty good. And it either was one of these things where we had to make a judgment call one way or the other, but like I think that's the biggest thing with new water is like looking at a map and just getting a rough idea is so helpful. And then John also comments, he says, bait fish will tell you everything sometimes. That's true too.
That's true. That came in huge at West Point on those big lakes, especially. But here's the other thing, especially if you're someone like me who does your research beforehand. I always have 2 plans that are different. Because if one plan doesn't work, then you have something to fall back on.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. So let's go ahead. We'll listen to this second call. This comes in from Kevin over at Biohazard Bassin. And Kevin, the audio on this one is a bit broken up in some spots. I did follow up with some things, and he texted back some responses. So we'll go ahead. We'll give this a listen and then come back to it.
Hey, Bob and Joe. This is Kevin from Biohazard Bassin. I have a live well question. So I did just start up last year with going with the light setup. Well, actually, I was using a medium light with a 1,000 size reel, and I started downsizing a little bit more to 1/8 ounce, and obviously having trouble casting something that light. And also, it was a fast action, which I do like fast because it's kind of like in between. There's both of them, but anyways, between fast and medium, the medium, a moderate or extra fast. I just saw like medium is like all around good size. But anyways, I bought a 6-foot light power St. Croix fast action, and it's so whippy compared to some of the other fast actions. It feels like it's more of a moderate action. But I figure with the lighter power, I could go cast these 1/8 ounce jig heads a little bit further. And, you know, obviously being in a little more moderate feel, it's going to be like a really nice fight with the smaller fish, being in the multi-species and stuff, catching some of these smaller species. I did try the Shimano 500 Nazi or something like that. I can remember how you pronounce it. So I'm wondering about line. So, you know, like, I don't know. I think a fluorocarbon might be too stretchy for the light setup. I'm just wondering what you guys would recommend for line on this St. Croix rod, 6-foot rod with the fast action, which I feel like is more moderate. So if you could help me out with that with the line selection. Also, I know my spike frowned upon, but I do not like using leaders. It's the thing. Just less knots for me, the better. But anyways, yeah, if I could get your help, pretty awesome. Thank you very much. And remember, go get that steak on your fingers, boys.
He says at the end, go get that stink on your fingers, boys. So I had followed up because I had questions. I texted. This is the nice thing too about the hotline. I was able to text back. I was like, are we talking spinning or casting here? And he said spinning. He goes, I have St. Croix Premier rods. I was thinking braid, but I like the Seagar Invisex on the medium light. This light power rod was so much more supple than some of the others I looked at. Thought I would give it a try. No need to answer here. I'll wait for the show. Thanks so much. So Kevin, I think I can help you now. I'm not sure if those premier rods are bass rods, and that's where I think that's where I think that the what's difficult about selecting a rod is that there is, you know, your power rating, right? And then there's your action. And the action is like where on the blank that bend starts to happen.
Exactly.
And the challenge is that there isn't really like a solid industry standard way. Like somebody's moderate is going to be a little bit faster than another company's moderate, or somebody else's extra fast might actually be more like somebody else's fast.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit tricky. Now, I will say this. Now, one thing I want to touch on. 1/8 ounce is not too terribly heavy. Like you should have no difficulty casting that on almost any spinning setup.
Yeah.
With accuracy and for sensitivity, I could see where you might not want it to be so like whippy and so moderate. I'll give you an example. Paul, he bought an Ardent combo at one of the Sportsman shows. Like I think it was like 2 years ago, and maybe 3 years ago actually. And
does it still work?
It does, but the thing is, like, he bought it. He's like, "Yeah, this will do," and the price was right and everything. He's like, "Yeah, it'll work great." He wanted a drop shot with it. The problem was, it like is so. I have to wonder if it's not freaking glass because it bends like around. It is so freaking moderate and super whippy. Like so, casting he has like no real accuracy with or anything like that. And then it wasn't this last show. It was the year before at the New England Fishing Expo. Yep. He bought like a 7 or like either a 7.1 or a 7.3, something in that window.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a medium light extra fast or extra fast. And this rod is very much more similar to what I'm using for drop shots, which is a medium light extra fast. The thing is I would look into that because you should have no problem casting like an 1/8 ounce on almost any spinning combo.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
As for line, you will get the best casting distance and the most sensitivity out of a braid. I am not going to tell you that you should just use straight braid. There are people who do, and on my BFS combos before, like I've been out and I'm like, shit, I left my leader line in the truck or something. I'm like, well, I'm just going to tie right to the braid, and you can still catch fish. I'm not going to tell you that you can't. You know what I mean? I will say it is worth it to, especially with spinning stuff that has larger guides, start tying a double uni. You know, I mean, just start and give yourself like 15 feet a leader. Let that knot go on the spool. I do it all constantly. I don't have an issue with it. When people are just like, oh, I don't like how the knot, you know, I haven't had any kind of an issue with that at all. You know, and again, I'm not like, I don't tie these crazy FG knots or anything like that. I'm a double uni guy because it's a knot to a knot. It's not going to let go. Like it's going to break, like the line's going to break before that lets go.
Sure.
And I haven't had an issue with guides. I finesse fish all the time, and I've never had an issue. So I will always say, like, if you want to get that good castability with braid, yes, go and use braid. It's for sure going to be great with sensitivity as well.
Right.
Less wind knots, all that. But with that said, if you're like hell no to a leader, dude, throw a fluoro. Put fluoro on that sucker and just spool it that way. It sounds like on one of your setups you're already using it that way. I would recommend go straight fluoro if you're like, I'm just not going to tie a leader. I just love the way braid comes off the spool. You know?
Oh, it's night and day. It's night and day.
It's so to me, it's worth it to tie the leader, you know?
Right.
It's not something I love, like sitting in a kayak on a windy day when I'm like, oh shit,
it's one of the, you know, it's muscle memory and you like have to do it a bunch of times to but you figure it out and it ends up becoming like second nature. Like I was kind of the same way, like fuck, I'm so sick of tying these goddamn knots. But but now I just do it and but for me, So I was actually trying to see here. I had the newest rod I had. So here's my rule of thumb. I'm looking at that. So when you're getting into that 6 foot, even under 6 foot, especially with that 500 reel, like for me, like in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's like a stream trout rod. That's
yes. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at no time am I the type of person that's going to take that and try to fish for bass.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, there's just not enough line on there. It's just that rod is just, you're not getting that distance for casting.
Yeah.
Granted, I do fish from a boat, so it's a little bit different. So for me, I'm typically using 7 to 7.3 rods. I use medium lights, but I use moderates. But the 6 Sense moderates are a little bit different. They're specifically for basically drop shotting, so they're not as whippy. Like where whippy gets scary is that you're not getting enough backbone for a hook set.
Yeah.
And I haven't had any issue with that. So I'm using I use a medium light for my drop shots and my Demikis. That's what I'm using medium light for.
Those are super fine wire hooks too, so they don't need.
So other than that,
hook set.
Every other spinning rod I have,
is
just a medium.
Yeah,
it's just a medium. It's I could throw, dude. I have because Jeremiah, my kid, he's still using spinning rods. He's getting comfortable with casting. Dude, I'll throw on a 75, 90 or 75 size, 90 size whopper plopper on that fucking thing. And I'm straight to 12, 15 pound braid, and it handles it just fine. Yeah. Cool. Does it bend a little bit at the end when he has it out of the water? Yeah. But he catches fish on them. It hasn't broken anything. It works just fine.
Yeah.
When it comes to, 90% of my rods on my boat, my spinning rods are just 7 foot to like 7.3 mediums. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think for a lot of people, they're like, when they're throwing finessier presentations, like the first rod that they think of is a 7 foot medium fast spinning combo. 7 foot is long enough to make some decent casts, short enough to have like crazy accuracy, and it's great for all kinds of stuff. So if you're throwing like an 1/8 ounce jig, like finesse swim bait, you can definitely throw that on there.
Of course.
I used to throw my finesse swim baits on there all the time before I changed over to using BFS. And it's more for that reason. It's more of an exercise in efficiency, than anything else. But I mean, you definitely, an 1/8 ounce for sure. If you start talking about like you're throwing stuff under a 1/16, like I think 1/16 ounce on a spinning combo is about as light as you can go before you have to start really considering the power. And I'm gonna use a story, and I think in the interview with Kat, I think I mentioned it. So if you may have already heard this, but there was a time where I was out fishing with Chrissy Fishing, and we were fishing a spot for the Jigs and Bigs multi-species scavenger hunt. And she was all excited because she had these beetle spins, like legitimate, the Johnson beetle spins.
Yep.
And she's like, she's such a rule follower and a stickler. She's like, I got the lead-free jig heads, the 1/32 ounce lead-free jig heads. I was like, oh, awesome. So she hooked me up with one, and initially I put it on my 7 foot medium, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool, we'll go ahead and cast. And I go, and I will say this too, when you're casting with spinning gear, side cast anytime you can. You go overhead and there's so much inefficiency there, like side cast, you will get much more distance if you side cast and you put like a little mustard on it. Like you'll do so much better with it, and you'll be probably much more accurate too. So I would cast like straight out in front of me, and this bait would go to the left, and I'm like, uh-oh. I cut off my drop shot. I put it on my medium light, which is still extra fast, but it has a longer tip and it's lighter action, so it's going to take less in order to move that. Was my thinking. Right. I was able to fish that with that combo. And that's where I was like, I need to get something ultralight so I can really get in and do this. And that's when that was that moment and how I cleaned up so much with that beetle spin that I was like, maybe I got to look into BFS. So that's kind of where that took me. But I would say like you don't need like an ultralight rod to throw an 1/8 ounce lure necessarily. No. That's the biggest thing.
I have nothing less than a medium light on my boat, and it's mostly for efficiency. And I'm throwing. Typically the lightest thing I'll throw is a 3/16. You know, I don't go any. I typically don't go anything under that, but yeah, it's or no 3/16.
3/16 is even heavier than an eighth.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of 1/6. I'm sorry, a 16th. Yeah, so I always get those two confused. I never mathed so good, Bobby.
Same thing. And I've been drinking, and I'm about to hit the jigglers, so get ready.
Yeah. So no, it comes down to preference, man. If you're looking, you know, just to have a good fight, you know, with a fish or whatever, then yeah, cool. Get a light, get an ultralight, you know, get something that's whippy and have a blast with it.
I would say,
but for efficiency,
I would say definitely. I'd be interested to know too, Kev, if those St. Croix Premiers, if they are bass rods, because lots of times like they'll be trout rods.
Trout rods.
And
I feel like those are trout rods.
And if they are, an 1/8 ounce would be actually pretty heavy for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that like an 1/8. It's going to depend. Like you put an 1/8 ounce jig with a plastic on it, that's going to be heavy. But if you're throwing like an 1/8 ounce, like.
Well, it turns into a fucking pretty much a 1/4 ounce.
Yeah, you add like a 3-inch plastic and you're adding quite a bit of weight to it. But yeah, I would say look into that rod. Let me know what's going on there. Feel free. You can actually text us on the hotline if you want. And I'm more than happy to go back and forth and see if we can figure it out. But I would say for the stuff that you're trying to throw, like you would be good with almost anything. But to answer specifically the line question, like all day long, and I think Joe would agree, braid is going to give you like the best experience in casting and sensitivity. But if you're not willing to go with the leaders, I can't recommend doing straight fluoro enough, because I think having that fluoro leader is critical, you know?
Yeah.
It really is.
And if you don't like tying the knot, just tie yourself one. Do a monofilament backer, so you're saving yourself a little bit of money.
Yep.
You're not doing just straight to fluoro to the reel, and then you could tie up 2-3 reels instead of just one.
Exactly.
on a single spool. So
no, I love it. Well, not too bad for the live well. I'll tell you, this segment could take off.
I like it.
I think
like it.
I think that so far the feedback has been really, really good. So, and I'm into it. And I also love Eli's little joke. I'd like to order a large pepperoni. That was fantastic, Eli.
Yeah.
I love it. We'll go ahead. We'll wrap this sucker up.
Let's do it.
I feel like Mr. Rogers. And I only say I feel like Mr. Rogers because I'm not like sitting at a bench taking off my shoes and putting on a cardigan.
Back on. Yeah.
You know, I'm not like that. But I am sitting here packing a bowl while I'm wrapping up the show.
Here's a question. A question, Bobby. Where was he always coming home from?
The strip club. No, I don't know.
Who knows? We never knew.
You're right.
Every single show was him coming home. We never knew where he was coming home from.
Maybe he always beat the mailman. You did.
Oh, the mailman was his friend. Remember,
Mr. McFeely.
They shared like a foot bath together.
You're right. They did. Oh, that was weird. Fred Rogers was a genius. He was amazing.
Really was.
But my God, you're making me ask all these questions, and this is nuts. Let's see. What's John Hagen say here? He says, this is the only time I'm out of place. I mean, I have my few bass rods and my ultralight, but my main rods are 10-foot Penn Prevails and Penn Battalions for catfishing, 10-foot Penn Squadrons for hybrids. Yeah, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Like,
those won't even fit in my boat. I got one of the biggest boats on the market, dude.
I don't know that those are setups that are, well, no, they're probably meant to be fished out of like my boat. You know what I mean?
Dude. Oh. Yeah. Or a fucking yacht.
I'd say overall a great show. I had a great interview with Kat. That was really, really cool to have her on. I want to give a big shout out to Chris Data. He was the guy who put that whole thing together. Was like, oh, you got to talk to Kat. She's awesome, man. She likes to fucking fish whistle too. You guys will have awesome. And that's exactly what it is. I knew John was going to say, as a bank guy needs distance for casting. You're goddamn right. Todd, you have a good one, buddy. Good to see you in here. Great show all around. A lot of fun. And, here we are. This is the episode that's dropping during all of the action of the multi-species scavenger hunt open, which is happening this week. And next week, we'll have some results to see who came in second place and first place. Because I have a feeling where I'm going to end up. I have a feeling exactly where I'm going to end up. I caught a tiger trout before the scavenger hunt kicked off. That was a foreboding sign. It's going to be sketch. So with all that said, guys, Jigs and Bigs goodness, go to jigsandbigs.com to get all of your info about Jigs and Bigs, anything that you could possibly need, like even down to going through like the Bobby roast beef tackle box and figuring all that shit out. What am I throwing? You'll know if I could find it online and it's there and realistic. I posted a link for it. I may do baits as well.
Okay,
it's going to depend on how it all works out. I may do some baits in general. Oh, and I don't know if we should necessarily mention this now, but the Jigs and Bigs Dark Horse Tackle relationship is evolving.
It is.
And I'll be honest with you, I kind of like where it's going.
I really like that. We won't say what it is now, but gives Bobby and I a little bit more free reign than we had before.
Yep, absolutely. The beauty is we're still going to be in the loop, and what you guys will hear all the details. It's going to be really, really good.
Yep.
It's almost like I can't give away too much. Nope. I can't. I don't want to be that guy. I can't be that guy. You guys have yourselves a great friggin' week. Get out there and catch them, dudes. Seriously, we're gonna have some storms coming in later, but I'm gonna be on the water significantly for the entirety of my my open series. Over the next 7 days, it's going to get a little bit nuts. I'm actually considering taking the boat to Trivia specifically to go and fish all night and then fish the next day. I got to work out my oldest taking that. That's the whole thing. It's the school.
Sure.
Why did I not do this in like July?
It's almost summertime too.
We're so close.
She's a junior, right?
No, she's a freshman year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's
freshman. Right. Oh, only got 3 more years of it.
I got Becca had texted me. She's working on the cabin. Oh, and did you see the video Becca posted?
I didn't.
Yeah, she posted the video about Sky, about losing Sky.
Oh, I'll have to look at it.
And it was heartbreaking. Like it was. And then in the comments, and I kind of love this, she put together a little compilation of like some of her favorite clips with Sky, and she didn't. It's like it's unpublished, but if you go in the comments of that update about about losing Sky, she goes and shares right in there so you can check it out. And there are a number of instances where these were trips where I was like, there was a clip from when I camped on the Cape with her, and then when we camped in upstate New York, and I brought Hudson, and there's no clips on the boat, but those were my favorite times at Sky, because I would be driving the boat and Sky'd come over and she'd shove her snout right up against my elbow, flip my arm up so I'd put my arm around her. She was the greatest dog. But yeah, I'm supposed to fish with Becca on Friday, and actually we might be going near you where the parking sucks because I need so many different species. So I'm like, be good to sample.
Of course, the day I'm leaving.
The day you're freaking. That's right. Oh shit.
You'll be all right.
Todd's son's graduating on. Look at that. Yeah. So close, man. So close.
Dude, hey, I got something to announce.
Oh?
So my oldest stepson, Nate, had his prom the other day.
Oh?
Prom king.
Shut the fuck up, dude. That's awesome.
Got prom king. He texted us. I was like, he's fucking with us. There's no fucking way. Sure,
he got fucking prom king. That's awesome, dude.
King. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he can be a little fucking asshole, but he's a great kid.
Yeah, that's how it is, though. That's how it is.
Yep.
Speaking of proms, Sean the Fisherman's boys hit the town for prom night. And Sean posted a pic over on his Instagram. He said his stuff all like to private and everything. He's like, I've retired from the podcast life. This is my life. But I'll tell you what, man, he has done such a good job raising two awesome young men.
Yep.
Like he really has. And they're friggin' each of them both a goddamn chip off the old block.
Yep.
That's the third one, Jay. That's the third one. I'm officially 75 years old. Yes.
Chip off the old block.
Fuck.
I'm gonna go try to grab something to eat, then go to bed.
I think that's a good idea. I'm gonna go have some Ensure and watch Jeopardy. You guys have yourselves a great one. We will see you with more Jigs and Bigs goodness coming up. We will see you in 7 days, and I'll let you know what third place feels like, because I'm sure it's gonna feel like now, like exactly like right now. Get used to it, Bobby. Get used to it. Say goodnight, folks. Good night, folks. We'll see you in 7 days with more Jigs and Bigs goodness. Like we always say.
Tits and ass, smoke some grass.